Okay, there being roughly 6:30 on December 11th, I'm going to start the zoning board of appeals off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. First order of business is 88A Hillcrest Acres, applicant of B. McDonald Construction LLC applicant, and Kathy Jo Martin and James R. Milky owners for a finding that demolishing the existing single-family home and constructing a single-family home on the same footprint with rear deck will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood as mandated by zoning bylaw, Article 5, Section 5.2.3, and/or variance from side yard setback requirement. The measurement on the original footprint being 3.2 feet from the property line as mandated by zoning bylaw, Article 7, Section 7.7.2. Subject property is located at 88A Hillcrest Acres, Westport, Mass., and is shown on the Assessor's Map 72, lots 15 and 16. Voting on this will be Jerry Coutinho, Ray Elias, myself, Roger Menard, Constance Gee, and Cynthia Kosekowitz. Will the applicant please come forward and sit here? The way this hearing will be run is the applicant will provide whatever information is appropriate. The board will ask questions, and then after the board has finished asking questions, I'll open it up to the public. So name and address, and the floor is yours.
Yes, good evening. Brendan McDonald, 743 Drift Road, Westport, Mass. And this is my daughter, Reagan McDonald.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
So I don't know if there's any information that hasn't been provided already. I believe, does everyone have a site plan, the actual construction drawings?
I just want to sort of just give us a quick overview of what you plan on doing.
We're pretty much just looking for, to waive one of the setbacks. I mean, obviously, it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot. We don't believe we're going to substantially impact the existing neighborhood any detrimentally, and we're just looking for actually that one waiver, but we plan on demolishing the existing structure, and obviously bring it up to code. We want to keep the existing footprint of the house, and we're just basically looking for a waiver on that pre-existing non-conforming structure.
Okay, I'm going to read a letter from the zoning enforcement officer that probably prompted this in the first place. Dear Ms. Martin, after review of the building permit application to demolish and reconstruct the dwelling at 88A Hillcrest Acres, the application has been denied. As per the Westport zoning bylaws, Article 5.2.3, pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses may be altered provided there is a finding by the Board of Appeals that such alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood. Also, the proposed setbacks are not indicated on the application or the submitted site plan. The existing dwelling appears not to comply with required setbacks. The property in question is located in a flood zone and will need to meet requirements of flood zone construction.
Yeah, and we're prepared to meet all those requirements, obviously with any of the flood zone requirements, any FEMA, any of those issues. The architect has actually demonstrated that in the plan, and we're not looking for any waivers on that. Obviously, we want to meet any of the current regulations, obviously through FEMA or any, like I said, the flood zone requirements. And
Now, was this like originally just a cottage?
yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Because, I drove down there today. I mean, it's right in the river, so it's obviously got a very scenic spot.
It's the red one at the bottom of the hill.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and obviously, we're going to have, we did a Title V inspection, which passed, but the Board of Health requested we do a denitrification system. We've got Lenny Potter. He's going to obviously address that and design us the appropriate system.
I just want to make one note before I continue on, is, because it's confusing to a lot of people. Part of the bylaw says that the alteration shall be not substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use. What that refers to are things like safety and traffic and things like that. It is not, has to do with the architectural style. We don't regulate the style of a house. We do regulate, though, things, like how does it affect the park? And is there safety issues? Is there traffic issues? Things that affect the neighborhood. I just want to make that clear before we go forward.
Although it looks really great.
Excuse me?
I said it looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping,
Design.
yeah,
Yep, go ahead.
The building that you're gonna take down,
yes, sir.
it's the same footprint that you're putting back up. And this 3.2 feet side thing that you're worried about,
Yes.
it's already non-conforming and it's already there. You're not extending it or decreasing it.
No, sir.
He's tearing the whole thing down, though. He has to, because he has to put it on stilts.
Right, but you're not changing the setback
No, sir.
from what was there already?
No, sir.
Okay.
Is the reason that
It-
you're not moving it over just a little bit because that's where the drainage is and, I mean, since you're built, you could actually move it away from the other property line a little bit and not have to deal with this, but
Yeah,
It gets too close to the water, right?
yeah, and plus, we've already got the septic systems installed,
Right, so
and,
that's all.
I mean, obviously, we respect your opinion, and obviously,
I'm just asking, I mean,
Right.
yeah, the only reason why, we just thought that, through the bylaws and things, the nature of, what we had read in terms of, our ability to keep the structure where it was, we just thought we were in our means to be able to do it, and obviously, we were just looking, for your opinion. And the design was based on the verbiage of what we'd read, and we thought we were within our means to do it, but like I said, we don't want to have any detrimental impact on the property or the neighbors, and really, that's the only reason behind it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the positive parts about keeping the same square layout is you don't really need a variance. It's already there.
Yeah, we're not looking
If
for a
you,
variance.
if you made any significant changes, then we would have to
Yeah.
investigate, it's not a waiver, it would be a variance.
Yeah, and that was the last resort, really. I mean, we understand we could apply for variance for a lot of things, and we just wanted to keep within the footprint, and we didn't want to create any other issues with the property.
Right. Variances are a lot harder to approve than findings. And finding, by the way, is a majority vote. And a variance, you need to describe what hardship you are trying to, that forced you into into the variance. So staying away from that is makes it a lot easier.
so even if they were trying to make the non-existing, the non-conforming property more conforming by.
Well, yes, but I mean, if they went closer, if they
moved it away.
if they moved it away, then it's probably, it's like no harm, no foul, yeah.
Right.
Right. But I'm not saying they should, I'm just.
Right.
It would be,
Well,
Now would be the time to
plans are
do it.
using the existing
Yeah.
the
Well,
same footprint.
You're right, right.
You indicate building on the same footprint. Does that include any decks, overhangs, roof overhangs, or whatever that you're going to be putting in?
Yeah, but that wouldn't infringe upon the setbacks. I mean, there is a deck on the backside.
And you-
But not on
west
the
side.
part that's not conforming?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you got a lot of distance between there and the water. You're not coming close to the property line.
No, sir.
But they even let, because it's only, it looks like it's only 100 feet from the water, that you had to be 200 feet now. I mean, I guess they have to let it build because it's a lot, but I thought the rule was
Well-
200 feet back off the water, but I'm not conservation, so.
What is this 7.5 feet that's been written in red?
9.5?
Is it 9? Well,
Yeah,
it looks like
9.
a 7 on mine.
Yeah, 9.5.
Okay, what is that? What is it going to? Is that a deck that's in that corner?
No, that, just indicating there was, that this was a footprint of the existing structure, and that, it is showing the existing footprint, that's showing it's 9.5 feet from the property line.
Okay, the existing
But that- yeah, that-
structure is
that-
9.5?
Yeah, that's gonna get, that's gonna be part of the demo. That's not part of the
So-
design.
So that wall of the new house, is it going to be right in that same line with, where you have the little scratch marks all the way across?
No, if you would continue the blue line from the existing foundation, if you ran that blue line south, it would be parallel with the east boundary line.
Right.
But that's indicating a porch that's existing when it's identifying that 9.5. That's coming off that existing porch that's
Okay,
there.
what I'm getting at is that, I'm trying to see here where your new wall is going to be. Is it going to be right on that same line?
You're making this a rectangular.
Yes, exactly.
So
We're
you're
just
gonna do it
continuing
square.
that line straight back.
Right, so the wall that would be the furthest east just continues south until it matches the.
The south
South.
corner, yeah, that south east corner, yes, sir.
But what I'm getting at is that you will now be exceeding the setback requirement with that
No,
wall.
they'll be actually they'll be actually
Making
making
it
it
less.
closer to 10.
Well, okay, what I'm seeing here is 9.5 for a part that he said is going to be demolished.
Right, and he's not replacing what he's demolishing there, it's coming up. Don't mind me. He's bringing this line down to
Right,
here.
and he's bringing it to here.
Right, but
But
right-
he's getting rid of this,
That-
so
that-
if this is only 9.5,
Then it's gonna be like 10.
it's
or
going to be
Yeah, it's
more than
11.
10, that's what I'm
Right,
getting
so
at.
it's, well, yeah, so it's
So-
gonna be within
Yeah,
the,
it's gonna be about 11.7. I mean,
Right.
it's gonna be parallel, maybe that angle actually on the east side, that boundary, that actually,
Yeah, so that's a side boundary, it's not a front boundary, correct?
yes.
So you are now going to be, right now, it's non-conforming, and you're
On
going
the
to
west
take, you're going to take that part away, so you will now be conforming on that side.
Yes, sir.
So the only place you're non-conforming is the 3.5, the 3.2 feet.
Yes, yes, that,
Which is
that-
already existing.
that's the
Right.
pre-existing, yeah,
Right.
that's the north side.
Is there any change to parking or egress to the property?
Let me just double check here. We're gonna have, there's gonna be parking under the structure due to the fact they're gonna have the piers.
Oh.
So there'll be parking, we actually have one designated parking spot, it's just indicated on the southeast corner.
Okay,
You've even got a little car parked under there.
yeah.
well, technically, the
So
west
that'll be in that
side is.
spot that we were just talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I would argue that technically the west side is actually the frontage, so actually they're still non-conforming. Because their driveway comes in behind it on the west. And that, I would assume you pick the driveway as the, I'm looking at the aerial.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
What's the overall height from grade?
Anyways.
4410?
Yes, sir.
And that, isn't this really the east side? This is the house, right there. That's north, that's south, that's east. So isn't this really the east side, not the west side? Because the bigger part in front of the house is the river, which is
Which would be the west, oh, yeah.
right
Right, that is
Right?
weird, yes.
So isn't what you marked, I assume the W in a circle is not denoting west, but I really think that's east.
What-
This is north, this is south, that's east, not west.
Or maybe that's not what that,
Well, I think
that's a
what it-
well.
Oh, the well, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'm saying,
Yeah, yeah, I looked into the same.
yeah, no, that's the well, yeah.
Well,
So I would say
Tell me, where's the road?
it's actually by the well side.
Is this the road?
This is the road,
That's Horse Neck.
Horse Neck Road, yep,
So in reality, they're not gonna be,
What's this?
coming in. No, I don't know where he's coming in.
so they're non-conforming on the east side as well, even though they're making it bigger.
This property's nowhere near Horse Neck Road.
No, no.
So
Three
what-
quarters of a mile from the,
So where's the
is the road.
street?
the street goes this way.
The one on the right?
It's really a funny
This
street,
one?
because it branches off all over the place, but it's the same street.
Okay. What I'm
Because it's
saying
a
is,
private
this is
road.
the
Go
road
in
that gets to the
Hillcrest.
house.
Here it is.
Go straight.
Straight down to the,
20
to the
wide
river.
and,
yes.
Right?
It also curves
Right.
off as well,
this is
Right.
technically their front,
because there's houses
hence.
to the
So
north of
Hillcrest
it.
comes in, it's all the way down the river, and Hillcrest comes in from
From Horse Neck Road.
Horse Neck.
That's where I hit the deer.
Oh, really? And then, it just goes straight in and just.
They're saying that
Yeah.
when,
Where is that
well,
on here?
when Jerry
See,
said,
here's Horse Neck
when Jerry
Road
said
here,
that they're making it.
but I don't see a
permanent.
road going,
No,
There is,
frontage
oh,
is
You can make
isn't
it
that,
just-
that's not,
making
well, it may be it.
conforming on the east side.
It goes
But it
straight
doesn't
down,
make-
where's the river?
Doesn't matter.
the
Okay.
river
Doesn't
is-
show the river, doesn't it?
The river's here.
Okay, how do we know
Oh,
that?
no, the river's here.
You see what
I'm
I
sorry,
mean?
well, I can't see.
Yeah.
My glasses, my reading, the
Yeah.
river's here.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's odd,
yeah.
but there you go.
Okay,
This-
one of the things we do look at is, we look at the neighborhood, that's the reason we usually do a drive-by, because we want to see how it affects the neighborhood. And, and obviously in that area, there are a lot of houses that are being built up, which is relatively common in Westport. You have a lot of, things that were either summer homes or cottages or whatever that now, are becoming full-time residences. Is that what you're planning on this to be, a full-time residence?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yeah. So, there is a variety of housing in your area. Some fairly large, some more modest, but, converting, certainly it isn't going, it isn't going to be a sore thumb kind of issue, I don't think.
It seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Yes.
plop it on the footprint, that's already there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Plop it on the footprint, that's already there.
Right, yes. We see that, we get a lot of this kind of thing because like I said, there's a lot of property in Westport that's old property that was either just a summer cottage or, or just, used temporarily. And now with the land the way it is, people are converting it into, full-time residences. And that's a positive thing for the town.
I have no problem with this, but I think for the record, we really need to designate what is the frontage and what is not the frontage
Yeah,
of this
the-
property.
it's-
So
yeah.
is
Okay.
the frontage where the W is?
Yep.
Where the well is?
Well,
It's where the road is.
that's really, I drove
Well,
down that road.
that's what I'm saying, so-
Technically, Hillcrest goes straight down to the water almost. But it also branches off.
Right.
So,
Is this a
Where-
branch off of here, or is this the
Yeah.
one that comes from Horse Neck?
Yeah, it runs
shown on
east
it.
to west.
it runs east to, yes, I know,
So that's the road that's coming into the house, so.
yeah, but it comes this way.
No.
Hillcrest,
Yeah, Hillcrest, but that's another road. You don't, it's just because Hillcrest is a road, doesn't mean there's another road coming off of Hillcrest.
no, yeah, see, if you actually look here, it goes that way too.
Yeah,
This is all Hillcrest. The Hillcrest down to here, that is,
well, either way, if that's the frontage, they're still non-conforming, because that's right here.
it says, yes.
Right? Or it's either that's the frontage, and they got a 4-foot
They
frontage,
they
or this
usually
is the
go by,
frontage.
where the front door is on the east side.
Not the front door. It's the road.
No, I'm asking, the front door
Yes, sir.
is on the, is like where the W is,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So
Okay,
generally, that's. the
so
front
that's
door-
not a 10-foot size setback.
50,
That-
yeah.
That's supposed to be a 25-foot
Yeah.
setback.
Yes, and
Yeah,
not that it makes
Okay,
any
'cause
difference because it hasn't
We were
changed.
just talking about that a little while ago,
Right.
and we're saying it was a 10-foot setback.
Until we realized the road was there.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to be clear about it.
Yeah.
But that's the frontage is on the long side of the house.
But this is a pre-existing
The
non.
condition-
Understand
Yes,
that.
but we're just trying to
I don't
clarify.
have,
for the
I just
record.
think we need to be clear in the record
Right.
where the frontage is on this property.
Hillcrest does, it's not like a lot of roads that it's point to point. It actually branches off. So
Yeah.
whatever part of Hillcrest you're on is the, in his case, you have Hillcrest, you essentially have a road on the north side of you and on the east side of you.
Right,
Yes, sir.
that's right,
And both of those are Hillcrest,
yeah.
correct?
But isn't there another property directly north of you? Before it hits
There's a
Hillcrest?
few.
Before it
Yes,
hits
there
Hill,
are.
before it hits Hillcrest Road?
Yeah, there are other homes to the north.
Yes.
Again, it doesn't really matter. Jerry wants it to be clear that the frontage is on the east side.
Okay, yeah, and since your house, since the front door is on the east side, then essentially we've got to assume that the road,
No, it's on the west side. This is
not with
the east.
the W is on the east side.
Right, and the front is on the west. This is the front here.
The road that goes in front of you on the east side of the house is Hillcrest, and because that's where your front door is, that's where we consider to be your frontage. So, and
That's
that one,
not- The door's on the west side. Look at
what's this over here?
the front door's right here.
Yeah, the west is the river.
The front door is on the riverside?
No, it's on the front door's on the east side.
Is that on
But
the
it's
east
where
side?
where the porch is, which
Where
is not
the
gonna be
porch-
there anymore.
No, it's gonna be there. The door, there are two points of egress, which I guess we need. And one is off that little
Okay.
balcony
Yeah.
that comes out. And then the other is off the door
Yeah.
by the.
Right, okay, yep. So, okay. So we're, okay. Any other questions from the board?
Yes.
Yes.
So, again, you're leaving in the same footprint. Part of it was because of the septic system, which is right over here, but you're gonna have to change the septic system to a D-Night system. Do you think you're gonna have to relocate the septic from where it is now?
No, they told us we don't.
Okay.
Yeah, we
I
already.
just don't want you to come, get to say you can do it here, and then all of a
Can
sudden,
we,
health says.
can we have you just come up to the microphone and announce who you are,
Oh, okay, sorry.
just for the record?
I just didn't want us to approve the plan.
Yeah, I'm
Just
Kathy
having
Martin.
the septic.
With my husband, we own the property, and we did go through the Title V. Greg Nicholas handled that for us.
Thank you, because you've been talking, and we need to make sure that we have it on
Okay,
record.
thank you.
Any other questions from the board? If not, I'll open up to the public. Anyone in the public, I assume you're all maybe here for the second petition? Okay?
We do have a letter of support.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
It
Thank
should
you
be
for
read
reminding
into
me.
the record.
Yes, for the record. I do have a letter from, let me make sure this is the right one.
Jeffrey
Yeah, Hilka, okay. Jeffrey Swope. We own the property at 393 Horse Neck Road, Assessors Map 72, Lot 32A, that abuts the south side of the lot that is the subject of this petition. We are writing in support of your approval of this petition. It will have no adverse effect on our property, and we believe only a minimal, if any, adverse effect on any other abutting and the other properties in the area. At the same time, the redevelopment of this property so near the east branch of the Westport River with an up-to-date nitrogen-reducing septic system in conjunction with the new construction will be a significant contributor to the health of this important waterway. If we can provide any information, please let us know. That's, and again, now we're gonna have to make sure that we list this in the meeting minutes. So, any other If not, then I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. All that means is now, we won't take any more information from the public. We will render a decision. I don't see any issues with this. We're essentially upgrading the property with the same footprint. So, for a finding, it sort of meets all their qualifications. It's not impacting, it's not really changing anything other than really improving the property.
Right,
Yeah.
That's,
nice design.
Thank you.
okay.
Like that in my house.
Motion?
Make a motion.
One side of it.
I'll make a motion to approve the finding that demolishing the existing single-family home and constructing a single-family home on the same footprint with rear deck will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood as mandated by zoning bylaw Article 5, Section 523, for the applicants Kathy Jo Martin and James R. Milkey.
I'll second that.
Dated, and made use of the plans from dated today, that were presented today.
In accordance with the plans from today. So, I'll have a motion, I'll second the motion. Any comment before we vote? If not, all in favor of granting the petition, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Let the record show it's unanimous. There is a 20-day waiting period, so, 20 days, you can start making your dream home.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, the second is a continuation, 0 Westport Lakes Road. Continued hearing on application of Pine Ridge Estates LLC in Bradford Dean for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, for a development off Westport Lakes Drive consisting of 38 single-family homes on individual lots, which are to contain 2 or 3 bedrooms, with 10 of those homes being designated as affordable deed-restricted homes. Subject property is located at 0 Westport Lakes Road and is shown on Assessor's Map lots 31, map 31 lots 3B, 3C, and 3G. Voting on this will be Jerry Patino, Ray Elias, myself, Raja Menard, Constance Gee, and Cynthia Kazekowicz. This is a continuation, so the petition will come up with, it will be the same process. We'll ask, board will, the petitioner can provide information, and then the board will ask questions. The first order of business, though, is we do need to vote on a consultant. We have 2 candidates for consulting services. I've reviewed both of them. I think, personally, the one we got from Field Engineering, I'm not terribly satisfied with. They don't do the traffic study, and they to me, they don't really describe exactly what it is they plan on doing. So I find it almost to be non-responsive, in my opinion. Anybody else?
I agree with
comment on
that.
it?
I agree with those comments.
Anybody else have a different opinion?
No.
Okay, I therefore
Mr. Chairman?
make a motion to,
Are there any conflicts with these?
no,
Yes.
it's been determined that there is no conflict.
Who made that determination?
Well, we have.
I'm not sure if the board is aware there's an apparent conflict. My understanding is that the other firm that you're considering is a firm owned by Brian Dunn. And Brian's a great engineer, and his firm's a great firm. They represent us in a couple of other developments. So he doesn't work directly for Dolphic, but we're on the same team as he is on 2 developments in Avon. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention,
Okay,
that there could be the appearance of a conflict of interest. But
Well-
I just want to make the record straight, that's all.
okay.
And I also understand that Field Engineering is a consultant to the, and has been a consultant to the planning board in the town of Westport.
That's true, and we had to actually almost twist our arm to provide a proposal, and a proposal is extremely weak.
Could we clarify, has Field ever had any dealings with you at all?
No.
Okay.
I don't know Field other than by name and reputation. We have never, or none of my clients, we do a lot of housing, affordable housing, and none of my clients have ever used Field Engineering, so I have no, whatever the board wants to do, but
Yeah.
it seems to make sense to me that the Field Engineering has also been the consultant to the Conservation Commission. And the plan that we're proposing, and I don't think we really got into this very much from the last couple of meetings, was the plan that we're proposing is almost identical to the plan that was already reviewed by the Conservation.
Well, and that's one of the reasons, actually, that I would really rather have a quick, a fresh look at things. And they don't do traffic studies.
Right,
Right.
so it's,
Brian doesn't either.
So
Brian doesn't do traffic studies either.
they have identified that they may sub it out, but they are going to respond to it.
That's fine. I just want to bring to the board's attention the potential, so that,
Yes, okay,
I just want to make the record clear.
yep.
Okay, I want to be clear. They've not worked directly for you, but for some of your clients. Is that correct?
Yes, I have recommended them to some of my clients who have hired them, and we've been a team like we are with Christian, with Fowler Engineering. We're a team, and we're sort of one going through the different boards. So we've done that with Brian and his group on 2 developments in Avon.
Okay. Given that clarification, I would like to ask our town council as to whether that would appear to be any type of conflict that should prevent us from.
can I ask, are the jobs completed?
No. One is partially completed, and the other one is substantially under construction.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm George Pucci from KP Law. I just made my own desk here, if you don't mind. One falling off the corner. It would typically be something for the peer reviewer himself to flag to you. So I don't know if he addressed that in his proposal. I did see the proposal, but I frankly don't remember if he had made any comment about a potential conflict or not. If he feels that he can act, that he understands that he's acting as the board's peer review consultant, not for the applicant, I don't see a legal issue with the board going ahead and approving him as peer reviewer. I don't know if he did address that at all, that he
It
had.
didn't in the presentation, but I know I read in all the paperwork here somewhere that they did not believe that there was an issue.
I'm not sure he was, or what, there again, I haven't talked to Brian at all about this at all, so I don't know whether he was even aware that we were involved.
I have an extra copy.
Okay,
You could
anyway,
always vote a subject to
I have.
checking with him.
Okay.
over here.
Say that again?
You could always vote a subject to Maria following up, where you were aware that, whatever that relationship was.
Yes,
The other point I want to make is that from an engineering point of view, we are, after tonight's meeting, we are ready to submit plans for peer review. So
okay, good. That's,
So, Brian was aware that it was Luce Farling Corp. Doing the engineering.
Right.
You, Delphin, really only do
We
the
lead
40B bidding.
Not only, we lead the entire team.
Okay,
Well, our expertise is in the area of 40B. We also have expertise in the area of planning, a lot of other issues. But Yeah, we're, our firm is considered, pioneers in affordable housing, and we do a lot of affordable housing. And the application has been submitted under 40B. So, I mean, I don't have any problem, I'm just saying, I'm just putting it on the record.
Well, I make a motion then to contract with MBL Land Development Permit as per their proposal as a consultant on this project, pending notification from them that there is no conflict of interest.
I'll second that.
If you would just make them aware that Dolphic is the
Yeah,
consultant.
and they may decide to decline the job.
Okay, we have a motion, you second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so you can,
Before we get into that,
Yep.
here's a check for $5,000 to be put into a 53G account. So my understanding is that really can't enter the contract until that's been filed.
attorney,
Usually good to get the check at the beginning, but did he request what did they request in there they wanted to take?
Well, this is to be put into the 53G account. How you write the checks, it's up to the town.
No, I'm saying the peer reviewer, they need to fund the peer reviewer.
the peer reviewer is for $13,500.
Right. So typically, we put a deposit, an amount, as his bills go down. We don't put the whole 13,000 in an account up front.
Attorney?
Yeah, I would read the proposal. Typically, they'll tell you what it is, and they get refunded, the developer gets refunded anything that isn't used. I would assume he has that in his engagement,
All it says is, it's on an hourly basis not to exceed $13,500 for the tasks specified.
And they'll be billing monthly, payable within 15
Me.
days.
We did a development in Westport, Briggs Landing, 100 houses, and that's the way it was handled in Briggs Landing as well.
Yeah.
No, as the,
Over the course of 20 years.
once the account gets down to a certain amount, then we're requested to replenish it, and that's pretty typical in almost every division, every development we're involved in.
I have no problem with that,
Okay.
but let's be clear, I've had it come up many times, later on, you're looking for funding, and then the developer says, oh, that exceeded the scope, and, I like to try to avoid those sort of things. You put the amount in, it's a retainer, and they draw off it, they get paid every
Yep.
month.
Yes.
But a retainer is not for, I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the chair.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I prefer to deposit the 13.5.
Yes, and this is, and we did this before when we did the cell tower. You put in the full amount, if we don't use it, we send it back to you. So, if you can give us that check and provide a subsequent
Well,
check
let's
for
open
the
up
full amount.
let's open up the account anyhow, and I'll
Yes.
check with my client to see what he wants to do, but in the meantime, take the 5, and I'll see if we can get the balance.
Get the balance in, because I
Okay.
prefer to have the money there to draw on, and then.
Very
If
unusual,
we
but that's
don't,
fine.
well, we did this, we've done this before.
Okay.
If,
Well, you didn't do it-
any
you didn't do it in the
unused
case of
funds would
Briggs
be
Landing.
sent
That's
back.
a lot of years
And
ago.
by the way,
I'm sorry?
if,
A lot of years ago.
Long time ago.
if it overextend, if for some reason it goes further than that, then we're gonna ask you for more money.
Of course.
But unfortunately, it says it will not go over, it's in their contract, they're not
Yes.
going over 13.5.
Right.
And I don't care how many times something's done, I'm telling you what can come up, which I think
Right.
you already recognize.
Yes.
Is later,
Yes.
just like attorneys get retainers and all that.
Mhm.
You get it, it's on
Yeah.
deposit,
Yes.
they bill monthly, there's no issue.
So,
Okay.
do Maria, or
Yeah.
give a check. Can you?
So, I
don't
know
think-
you-
I don't think we have a copy. Do we have a copy of the proposal?
Right here.
We don't have a copy of the proposal from Brian Dunn?
sent it.
This,
I don't think we do.
you can have.
Oh, thank you.
It was emailed to,
For sure, you
It was? Okay, it could have been.
Yes.
I just don't recall reading it. Could be.
Do you need a copy of this, Paul?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah?
No.
No, I haven't. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, I believe we did receive something from the Conservation Commission on November 21st, which would have been after the last meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll read that into the record. On behalf of the Westport Conservation Commission, I am hoping to provide some clarity with some of the outstanding issues raised for the Westport Lakes subdivision. The Westport Lakes development began as a multi-use development. The proposal for a 9-hole golf course, associated water sources, and residential development were all part of the original review. The scale of the project and the property being located in Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program habitat triggered the applicant to apply for an MEPA approval. Project went through 4 project changes during the final issuance of a final environmental impact report in 2008. In the process of obtaining the MEPA approvals, Westport Conservation issued an order of conditions. The order was appealed to MADEP during the same year. NHESP removed habitat designation on the property. MADEP issued a superseding order, and they took over review of the project. The original approval wetland alteration would occur in 2 locations. The first area, 220 square feet, was on Westport Lakes Road at Station 7+00, and the other was at Station 25+00. At the second cul-de-sac, 3,080 square feet, the total wetland alteration for the full road layout was 3,300 square feet. A total replication amount of 5,000 square feet was proposed along the easterly west wetland area. Reviewing the files, I could not determine if the replication was ever completed. The full extent of what MADEP permitted was not completed, as the second wetland crossing was never constructed. Application of only 220 square feet would be required with the current construction. The current overgrown vegetation within the basins are another concern. The stormwater system require removal of woody vegetation so it function as designed. These basins are in need of significant maintenance. It is recommended that the owner and a representative of Westport Lakes Road be required to obtain a certificate of compliance for the current development before any further road extensions are allowed. Sincerely, for the commission, Christopher Capone.
Can I make a comment about that?
Go ahead.
I did a site visit on November 20th. I visited the conservation agent on the 19th, and I commend Constance because she did something similar, not at the same time as me, but she did it also. I went there to find out about the certificate of compliance. That's what I asked him for specifically. I went throughout the entire site. Some of my comments are, the road's in pretty good shape. The drainage basins seem to be working. The retention pond needs some work. There's no maintenance to it, it's overgrown. The outlet pipe that heads towards 177 and possibly towards Mouse Mill Road, which has planning board issues right now, they've had 3 or 4 meetings in the area. I'm concerned with the water coming from where you guys are gonna put houses all the way down through there and across to 177. The wildlife crossing needs to be maintained. There's growth under there that would stop the crossings. The sides of the roads, for safety reasons, need to be mowed back. The land proposed for the 40Bs, I walked all the way through the septic area, all the way up where the track machine's gone, all the way up to where the site is. I spent 2.5 hours there looking around. I'm for 40B housing. I think that it should happen in town. But I just want to make sure that it's done right, and that's why I visited the planning board and the Conservation Commission, which probably prompted both of those letters. You got another one to redo, I think.
One question for Attorney Bucci. How much of the maintenance of the existing road is really significant to this project?
The access road that brings to the
Yes,
project entrance.
yes.
We
Wait,
can show it to you on the plan if that helps you.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of issues concerning the road. I mean, the main thing, in the board's province, the town at some point has got to figure out what's going on with that road. You know, I got information from the town planner. I haven't rendered an opinion on that. That'll have to go before the planning board.
it's a private road.
But if it has to do with non-compliance with subdivision conditions.
Okay.
And it's something for the permitting authority that granted it, we're gonna have to get that on their agenda. We're gonna have to look at it and opine to them. Aside from, those issues, the adequacy of the roadway to serve this development is definitely within your province, within your jurisdiction. You gotta start to look at that issue. I wouldn't get bogged down in the issue of, the uncompleted subdivision roadway and what the obligations are there, but you certainly have the ability to condition your permit on a safe and adequate roadway in accordance with.
Does that include drainage and retention ponds that are not part of this project?
Right, you're gonna need to rely on some technical expertise about it, presumably
Okay.
it's gonna be within the peer reviewer's scope.
Okay,
And he'll opine on that to you. I don't know if anybody, town engineer or anybody like that, have they weighed in on
No.
the adequacy of the roadway?
well, no, the town says it's an adequate road, but it's obviously not maintained.
Right.
Well, I asked,
If I-
I actually asked an engineer that I know, and the town administrator, who was an engineer at one, Jim Hartnett, what's the pond supposed to look like? He said, both of them said the same thing, should look like when it was installed. You can't even see some of the riprap.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's both the condition of Westport Lakes Road is very important, and it's of great concern to some of the people that live there. It is the total response, there is a homeowners, which I have included in the book that I'd like to be sure it's put into the record.
I'd like you actually to go through that.
I'm kind of maybe doing that a little bit now.
Okay.
If that's okay. So the road is, in the maintenance of the road, there's a homeowners association that has been established. And I've included that in the package. It is the responsibility of the HOA to be responsible for the maintenance of the road. The original developer, the developer is not my client. My client has no interest in Westport Lakes Road ownership, has never had any ownership in that. So when it was approved by the planning board, the developer, who's been sitting on this property for many, many, many years, has not done anything. He never completed the road. He never, all the issues that have been raised are all legitimate issues. I'm not doubting that one bit. It is overgrown. I mean, if it would help, I mean, we don't own the property. If it would help, we'd be glad to go there and trim back some of the overgrown trees and so forth up to our property. I'm not sure we have the legal right to do that, as it's owned by someone else. My understanding is that one of the boards, I'm not sure if it's the planning board, has recently, lack of another term, put pressure on the developer to do something. He has no intention. We've asked him to buy the property so we could fix it. Oh, my client has. He just,
That puts us in a,
I understand, but it's not it's the planning, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
right? We have to make sure that this 40B is safe, and doesn't affect the health and safety of the residents. And having a road that we all know and admit to is being inferior for not the road itself, but perhaps the maintenance of, affects the health and safety of the residents of the proposed 40B development. And that is my concern.
And we can address those through the process. The issue of safe, We have a letter from the fire department. There's been discussions with the fire department. The plans that you have not yet seen, okay, have addressed all of the issues raised by the fire department. The turnaround, the deadhead, the cisterns that he wants installed.
That's on your development. I'm talking
Right,
about.
but our
the road- Right.
I understand.
But
Go ahead.
you can't get to your development without you using a
We-
road
we have to-
that we know is not up to par, i.e. on its maintenance standards.
That's up to the town to enforce those provisions that the planning board approved. We're glad to help out, and we're glad to do things wherever we can to help wherever we can. That is not a reason, I shouldn't say that, that's not a reason to deny, okay, the development. We're going to have access. We have the right to pass and repass. In the book that I presented to you, in the sale of the property to this.
I understand that.
Okay, so they reserve the right to pass and repass.
Right.
We have the legal right. We have standing before the zoning board of appeals with our application and its development. Mass Housing has issued.
I know that.
So I understand the concerns, and we're willing to work with the board. But you can't tell me we can't do our development because somebody else didn't do what they were supposed to do. I think, and
I'm
I
not
think.
saying we're not gonna say, I didn't.
Okay, so we can work together in trying
I'm
to.
just saying that my concern, and I'm not even sure it's the whole board's concern, my concern is that road and its maintenance is a problem because it's eventually not, I mean, yes, eventually, if that road is never maintained, then that, it is gonna greatly affect your 40B.
There's no issues with the fire department. We have a letter from the DPW, we have a letter from a couple of boards that they understand it's the maintenance.
Right.
The roadway itself, it may be fine. Now, there's also, when we develop our plans, and I've had a long conversation with Chris Capone of the Conservation Commission. When we produce all of our plans, there's some of that drainage that goes into one of the we have to prove all of that meets all engineering and we're not trying, we're going to do that. Listen, I did a 90 lot, it was a while ago, we did a 90 lot subdivision. I ask you, on that subdivision that we did, and with my reputation, there's not one complaint from any, I'm just telling you, there's not one complaint from any department, let me finish, please. There's not one complaint from any department in the town.
Change the tone of your voice, please.
Go ahead, thanks, I will. But I'm just telling you that it is, we did that development and did everything that we were supposed to do. That's my reputation with the town. Now, and my reputation, and we want to work with the town, we want to work with the neighbors. I've given all of the information to the town that support, I've given you copies of deeds that supports the sale of the different properties. My client does not own any of those.
We understand
Okay,
it.
so how do we get to
We have
the?
not, the board has never questioned that part, and you're harping on that.
Okay.
Okay?
So how do
My
we-
question is when that West Park Lake Road is not maintained, a tree falls in the middle of it, and everybody looks at each other and says, not my responsibility. That's what I'm worried about.
It's a legitimate worry. How do we address that issue? How does that?
That's what we're here for.
How does it get resolved? I
That's what
mean,
we're
we're
here
here to
for.
work with you. How does it get resolved? I don't have the answers, other than it's sort of someone else's problem that he's making a problem for you and for us. So
That is all I was saying, and you're getting very,
No, I'm
you're
just.
attacking us.
No, I just want to be very, very clear that our client, the
We know your client
Okay.
is no way involved in the property yet. We got that.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to just break off, because I have one other correspondence that I should read. It's from Coastal Harvest LLC, December 4th, 2024, addressed to the Westport Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm writing to address and clarify several statements made by Mr. Pereira during the ZBA meeting on November 6th, 2024. It's important to correct the record for accuracy. Bradford Dean has never been a manager or owner of Coastal Harvest LLC. He has not had any input, control, or involvement with Coastal Harvest LLC at any time. Coastal Harvest LLC did not construct the garage located at 26 Westport Lakes Drive. There is a homeowners association in place with the property. Despite multiple invitations, Mr. Burr has chosen not to join the HOA. Currently, there are 4 active members, with Coastal Harvest holding the remaining membership until the time of sale. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Again, this is just a letter from Coastal Harvest.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
so,
Mr. Chairman, could I
So I-
also add another thing here? Because this booklet has a lot of comments that
I gotta go through
that
it.
Paul has submitted, and I just want to be clear that I, and I assume the rest of you, have not had an opportunity to look through this at all. That we only got it yesterday.
I looked it up.
So, I mean, I've gone through part of it, but I didn't get through all of it.
With this, I assume, is in response to all the neighbors'
Yeah,
comments.
my intent here was
I
not,
just want to make sure.
yeah,
you
no, my intent was
understand
not for the
we-
board, because I only submitted this a few days ago, so my intent was not for the board to respond. My intent was for us tonight to go over it together as a submission and address the issues and the concerns.
Right, I know there were a lot of,
I just want to be clear
Comments
that
from-
we have not.
Sure, I
I
understand.
had a lot of comments from the, from the.
Of course.
Butters, and I would like to hear your response to, to those comments. I assume that's what's in here.
That's what this whole book about. I mean,
You
the
just walk
major,
us through it?
the major concerns, as I understand it, with the abutters is what we're talking about, the condition, maintenance of that road. It hasn't been done, the Conservation Commission hasn't issued a certificate of compliance, all of those things. That's their legitimate concern. And so what I was trying to do in this booklet is to indicate that those concerns were valid concerns, and that, as I said previously, that that it's not my client's responsibility. So I just wanted to make that clear, so that we could go on and talk about our proposed development and what we want to do for our proposed development. But in tab 5 of this booklet, there's also a letter from Brad Dean indicating, it sort of goes back, this property goes back to almost the year 2000.
Actually, it's not there.
I'm sorry? Go next page. Is that it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So what we do is that she added 2 pages and then a summary. So the property goes back to about year 2000. And there again, Brad is just trying to show to the board what his involvement was with the property. The property was originally, as the conservation letter also indicates, originally there was going to be a proposed golf course with many houses, and it included a substantial amount of the property. And so Brad is just outlining here what his involvement was in different years. And it was not till 2017, I believe, that it was, that Blue Cat, that the original developer, American Links, was Greg and his wife, last name is Squillantine, N-T, who are actually their parents. And as the development was going through the process, Brad was, he was in high school, in school at the time, in the beginning stages. So it wasn't until, and his father called all the shots. They were going to propose the golf course with many houses. There was a file that had to be completed with natural heritage, with environmental impact report, and all of those reports have been submitted. But that development's not going forward, so all of that information is dead. And so we're not proposing our 38 units, we're not proposing it on the same piece of land. It's a totally different piece of land. So, and then we have copies of each of the deeds going from American Links, sold after the father passed away. the mother ended up with the rest of the property, and she sold it to Blue Cat. Now, Blue Cat is Brad and his two sisters who own Blue Cat. They are managers of Blue Cat. And then Blue Cat sold it to Coastal Harvest, and that's where the separation became. And there's a shareholder's income that shows that in a K-1, that the property was 100%, but 50% owned by the wife and 50% owned by the husband. No ownership position at all by Brad. And so what I'd like to do is answer, so in one of the comments that were made also was that there were deed restrictions on the property and that sort of thing. There are no deed restrictions on the property. There was a covenant placed on record when a subdivision was approved, but there's no, I think the person had submitted to you a plan that showed, let me see if I have that plan. Yeah. A plan that showed that part of the property was deed restricted and made reference to a book and page. That book and page was the F, I don't know if you're familiar with the Form F covenant, which is what a planning board requires when a subdivision is approved, so that they don't, and hopefully I have this right, that they don't sell lots because there's a covenant unless the road is completed or the balance bonded. So that's the reference that he made. And he shows all of this land being deed restricted. That's not the case. And we have a copy of the plan and so forth. So with that, I'd like the opportunity to present to the board, have Christian Fallon, who is our engineer, and John Marchant, who is an engineer with Fallon, to take you through what we're proposing and how he plans on handling the drainage and how that does or doesn't affect Westport Lakes Road. We can talk about that as well. Any questions?
Gotta read that.
No.
Okay.
Legal status, no, I can do that. Go ahead.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Christian Fallon so he can give you, or John, to give you a presentation. And also, it's important to, I think it's important to note that what we're proposing is the exact location of what was being proposed to the planning board for 56 units, the exact same, almost identical in location. So we brought along the 56-unit plan, so we could show you what that looks like. And we also have the engineering for the 38-unit plan, so you can compare both and see, in fact, and of course, the engineering would have to be reviewed by your peer review. And we're also, before we get into that, a traffic report is being prepared, and
Any idea when to expect that?
I'm hoping before the January meeting.
Okay.
I assume we're going to meet in January. They're working on it now, have been working. It's Vanessa Engineering Associates, Jeffrey Dirk. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I think he's done some stuff. Highly recommended. Many towns use him. We've been using Jeff for a number of our developments and does a complete report. So that'll be available soon. As soon as it's available, we'll send it to you, and hopefully Brian will send it to his peer review guy because Brian doesn't do traffic, but he'll send it out to somebody.
Roger, what was that plan that he just referenced? I don't know.
Yeah, that one.
I got this from the meeting of the last meeting. That was, I got the Form F covenant. And
Or that, too, because that, I'm sorry, Roger, I just, the universe of documents, this binder is like stuff about the covenant and all that, but there's no plans in it.
No.
What is that plan that,
This is a plan that one of the neighbors made reference to at the last meeting.
oh,
That's all. That was an exhibit that he gave to.
Do we have that?
right,
Do we have that?
Yeah, they gave us a copy last meeting.
So this is from,
okay, just clarifying.
and what, apparently what he did, he took the plan.
Pretty sure we have it.
I'm not sure if it matters. I want to make,
And there was, and.
Can I ask for some clarification here?
Try to.
From the letter from Brad Dean.
Yeah.
And it says, from 2015 to 2017, my sister was in, my sisters and I purchased land from American Links. I'm looking at, the one thing you failed to include here was the corporate filings of American Links and who those corporate officers are.
It's just, yes.
And the president is Brad Dean. And that was and he's saying that he had nothing to do with
He-
American Links, but he was president.
He was an officer of American Links, but had no ownership position. Which is not unusual.
Right, but, if you have any, I'd like to just see proof of that.
What would you,
It's in corporate documents.
what documents?
The corporate documents saying he had no ownership issue.
I just sent you a copy of the K-1.
I,
That's included in
yeah,
the,
that's in this book.
K-1, the K-1 is tab 4.
We just, it's the first time I've seen this.
Yeah, I understand, that's why we're going through it together.
That thing.
that's not, that may not, I did see it, but it may not
the K-1 from
be
2014,
anything
I'm talking
relevant to
about,
what you're thinking about
Yeah.
or looking at.
yeah.
So,
Do you want the K-1
Yeah.
for every year? I mean,
Okay.
what would you like? I don't know.
And you also blocked stuff out, so how do I know that? doesn't
Because
say Brad Dean?
that's private information of addresses and that sort of thing. It's got the names are not blocked out. And if you want, I could we could get you one that's not blocked out, but
Can
those
we
are just,
sum up to, is the point of that binder just to prove that Brad Dean is not
Yes.
involved in the development?
Yeah,
All right.
yes. It
All right.
really isn't the big, it might be the biggest issue for the neighbors,
It
but
is.
I don't think it's a relevant issue for
Right.
us.
It does, and it doesn't
And I-
address what you were saying about, because really the scope of these are issues that have to be figured out.
yes.
That, you know, but it will also involve planning board, because they granted the subdivision. But just to clarify, the issues that Cynthia was talking about are, those are sort of the things in your province that you wanna figure out, well, how would we condition this project if we were to approve it? And those could include conditions relating to the access of, the adequacy of the roadway. And you could tie it to issuance of a building permit. So whoever the responsibility of it is, you're gonna have conditions in your permit based on technical recommendations about what's required for a safe and adequate access to this development. And then somebody's gonna have to figure it out because they won't get a building permit. So,
Okay.
I don't think we have a problem with that. I mean, the issue of safe and adequate can be addressed. The issues of, not doing what the Concom said and other kinds of things is not safety related.
Yeah, exactly, I'm just
Right,
worried
yeah,
about safe
yes.
and
That's what
adequate.
I understand. So the
'Cause-
cleaning up the roadway so that the
But what you
fire.
do is sell those damn things, and if it looks like crap going in, who wants to buy it?
There's some beautiful houses in there.
Yeah, I'm just saying, your development, right? We wanna see
Oh, yeah,
that fully
We
occupied.
would, at the appropriate price, we
Right?
would like to,
And I'm
Yes.
just saying that road, even though it isn't your problem, is your problem, because if I was driving up that road to a
Yeah.
nice new development, I might turn
it's
around.
certainly an issue with marketing and so forth, whether it's a legal question and so forth, I'm not so sure, but we can certainly address the issue of safety and all of the road access and the legal access and so forth. And willing to work with the Concom and all other people on the rest of the development.
and then just one other point of clarification, the plans that we're looking at tonight, do we have those or?
Yes, What, no, you have, we submitted with the application the 38-unit plan.
Oh, so I thought we were doing revised, updated plans.
But now what we're showing tonight is updated drainage plans.
But we don't have.
So we don't have that.
We don't have a copy of this set yet.
No,
We were gonna send this out to the peer review, once we have that finalized, along with the drainage report.
Yeah, and let me clarify too, Mr. Chair, you know, my recommendation, you do it how you want. There are no submissions directly from the applicant to the peer reviewer. All the submissions have to go through the administrator.
Yes.
And so really, I don't mean to be a pain in the neck, but it would have been nice to have the plan set before tonight.
Well,
'Cause
Because the plan set is, the plan set
If
is,
you let me do the presentation, I'll let you know where we're at. The plan's not 100% done yet, so.
that's all the purpose of tonight's meeting, was to show you where we're at, and that, because a peer review firm had not yet been submitted. In the meantime, Chris has been completing the plans so that a peer review plan, a person is picked. We can now submit those plans for their review. So just bringing the board up to date, and in the meantime, if the board has any questions about anything that's been happening, then we can be glad to answer those.
You know, it's hard to, I mean, I'm sorry. Look, I'm slow maybe, but a plan like that, I need time to look at it, and I'm sure you do too. You look at it yourself, you digest it, you look at the scale, you look at all the things on it, and then you sort of orient yourself so that you can listen to the presentation from the engineer. Like, you don't hear from the engineer before you had a chance to sit with it. And so I don't love this process, you know, and I understand if they weren't completed so that they could submit them to you beforehand, okay, don't waste the hearing session, you do want to hear, but I just want to know, let's try to have some type of order to the proceedings, which you've been trying to pursue, Mr. Chair, but, so from now on, let's have the submission in advance of the hearing.
You do have the submission of the application.
No,
And the plan, and,
We
let me
had the
fin-
last hearing session, and the engineer said he's in the process of updating the plans, he's gonna submit them to the board, and that's why they picked tonight.
Right.
And then we're hearing about the plans now, so
Yeah.
I don't have to beat a dead horse, but it would have been nice to have
I'm
them.
gonna beat another dead horse, is because in the first meeting, you wanted us to pick a peer review firm right then, because you were ready to go to submit, and now we're 2 months into this, and you're still not ready to submit, and you were pushing us so hard on the first meeting. Yes, I actually went through the tapes before tonight.
Okay.
You pushed hard for us that first night to give you a name of a peer reviewer. And we said we weren't ready because you were ready to give plans. You said the next meeting, we were gonna have the traffic study done. We didn't have the traffic study done. And now, and we won't, and now, we still don't have it done. And we're against a timeline here, and you were setting a very fast-paced tone in the beginning, and now it seems to have gone completely the other way. The brakes are on and we're going backwards.
We indicated that we wanted to proceed as quickly as possible. Peer review firm was not picked. Granted, the engineering, we would have possibly submitted a partial set of plans, which is not unusual for a peer review to look at. That's the way it's done sometimes, but,
You don't even have that.
I'm
And
sorry.
we have a peer review thing.
Because you hadn't picked a peer review plan yet,
Well,
a
you-
person yet.
You-
There was nobody for us to send it to. Now, we will.
Sir, we had a peer review plan picked out last meeting. It was MLB. It was your, not your firm, Farland said, why don't we try field engineering? So what, I ask you, why did you not, when your first meeting here, and you were pushing us for a peer review that night, why didn't you say, oh, by the way, field engineering had done the other plans, and maybe you want to look into them? You're wasting our time.
Wait a minute, the town knew that? You're telling me the
No, we
town
didn't.
didn't know that? The town conservation
Hey,
commission?
let's call-
We're not, we're
Both
not,
of you.
Well,
Calm
call it-
We are not-
Fine, I'll, let's call peace.
Let's get,
we are not the conservation committee.
But you are a town. You are a town, so you're gonna tell me that the planning board doesn't talk to the conservation commission? Or that you and other people don't have the right to go to those commissions?
That wasn't our responsibility on your first meeting.
the only thing,
Go ahead.
The thing that bothers me is that you have said from the beginning that the plans will be ready. Plans are not ready. And you just said the traffic plan won't be completed until the end of next month.
No, I didn't say the end of next month. I said we're hoping to have it ready for the January meeting.
Which is sometime next month. And
Hopefully
then we would
it's
have
not
to
yet.
then send it to our consultant. He's going to have time to review
Sure,
it.
yes.
So we may not be able to talk about it at the next meeting.
That's correct.
Okay.
Not unusual.
And that's, so
I mean, what,
but there's not a whole lot we can do until you provide us with actual plans, not,
these plans will be submitted within a few days from me to you, to the board, okay? And the board then would need, and if directed by the board, we can send the plans to the consulting engineer.
no, you'll
And then-
send them to Maria.
Well, we're gonna do that,
Right.
so she'll get, so
She will send them to the
usually
consultant.
the engineer will want an electronic version of,
Okay.
so with your permission, we would then send Maria electric version if she wants. Or however you want me to do it, we will do it.
Okay.
But it will go through the board. We're not gonna submit directly.
Okay.
The same thing with the traffic report. Once we get that traffic report, we will send it. Now, you may wanna have the traffic engineer in to discuss the traffic report before it goes to the peer review, or you may want to send it to the peer review. It's up to you, however you want to handle that.
Okay, so you just want to give us a quick update?
And what we typically like to do, if we can, from meeting to meeting, is try to resolve each meeting one particular issue, whether it be drainage, whether it be traffic, so we can get through that.
So why don't you just give us a quick update?
Thank you.
Where you think you are? Name and address, you got to speak into the
I just have one
microphone
question.
there.
I have one question. Did you say that this was a 52-unit plan, or,
I think 56, I think is what I said.
okay, 56, okay, but I
What-
thought the plan was for 38.
Yeah, so let me explain again.
This
So
is-
what had happened, there was an application submitted to the planning board
Right,
for a plan, and they went through an extensive review. They,
Right.
quite a number of months.
and that was for 52.
And that was, I think it's 56, but let's call it 52.
Okay.
Okay, and that plan had a lot of engineering done on it. The drainage system, location of catch basins, location of septic system, and so forth. So what Fallon has done, they've taken that plan, which was 90% engineered, maybe more, and have used that same road, same location of detention basins and so forth, and instead of 52 or 56 units, whatever it was, it's 38 units. And my understanding is that on that 56-unit plan, those were all duplexes.
Right.
These are all single-family homes, so therefore it's only 38. So that's,
Okay,
hopefully I answered your
right,
question.
okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp. The plan you have here, which is part of the application that we did submit to the board, shows the by right use plan, which was presented to the planning board and also submitted to the Conservation Commission as well. Now, I do want to let the board know that the roadway is almost identical to what we have proposed. Not only the layout of the roadway, but the utilities, stormwater, sewer, fire protection, septic areas, everything's almost exactly the same. So this plan, as I said, has been presented to Conservation. Conservation Commission sent it out to peer review, which was Field Engineering. Field Engineering went back and forth with CEC, who was the design engineer at that point. So this plan has been thoroughly reviewed multiple times by two engineers.
And that's the 52 or 56-unit plan. you're looking
Yep, this is the 56. I just want to show you, so you can see the layout compared to what we have, and it's exactly the same.
You see all right?
I'm going to show you the differences. And again, we were hoping to submit these last week. was a short week with the holidays. So, but these plans are about 95% complete. We just got to do a thorough review of them and finalize our stormwater report, which we plan on having done either by Friday or early next week. So you will have a complete set of plans submitted. I will ask, this plan set's very large, so if you can't handle it, I don't know if the town has something to digitally Dropbox, whatever you have, to be able to handle a large file. If you don't, we might be able to set something up, because most towns can't handle a large file like this. So I'm just gonna walk you through, again, the plans. This is the roadway, exactly the same. The only thing we added to this was when I talked to the fire chief, at the end of this year, he wanted to put a turnaround, which we provided. Basically, his design standards were exactly what we did there. So that was the only change on this entire roadway, entire layout, as far as the roadway goes. We also changed the roadway, which was originally designed with a cul-de-sac in this area here. We didn't see a need for that cul-de-sac, so we reduced the impervious area, which is a win-win for everybody. So that has been eliminated. As far as the drainage goes, the drainage is exactly the same with the stormwater basins, which we did show on the layout plan, which the town has the record plans of. This plan here is in more detail. All the plans that we're presenting now are gonna be more technical with utilities, with sewer, all the utilities, the grading, and the stormwater. This is something really I'm not sure the expertise of the board, but this is something most likely the peer review is gonna be commenting on. So I do wanna let the board know the layout that we provided you hasn't changed. The only other thing that has changed, obviously, the number of units. We have less number of units. Obviously, the driveways are different because the number of units are different. And as far as the utilities, you will have part of your package. These are the plans here, which I said are pretty much 95% complete. This is a large plan set, so there's 4 sheets to every grading plan, every utility plan. Every layout plan has 4 sheets to match because it's so big. You can't have a plan like this because it's unreadable. This is just like an overview of the whole site. So when you do get the plans, you'll see that each section has 4 different versions, and it's more of a blow-up, so you can actually see what's going on here. Again, the drainage has been reviewed, designed by one engineer, reviewed by another. Now we're looking at it, again, just to check to make sure that everything meets our standards. At the end of the day, my stamp's going on this plan, so I wanna make sure it's all correct. So you're gonna have a 3rd engineer, and now you're gonna have MDL look at it, which is a 4th engineer. If this isn't the best designed roadway, the town should be very satisfied at the end of the day. As we're gonna have 4 engineers take a look at this thing. So if we can't get it right, there's gonna be another engineer that could. I've been doing engineering since 2008, almost 20 years, and I can honestly tell you, as far as stormwater goes, I've never had an issue with any of the stormwater basins I've designed, any of the subdivisions I've designed. Never had any issues with them. When it comes to stormwater calcs, a lot of these calcs are very, very conservative when it comes to stormwater. The only issues you would ever come across is if the contractor didn't install it right or put in some bad material, so it's not infiltrating. Certainly something we will be overlooking when it comes time to construction. I can walk you through these plans. Again, I know you don't have a copy of them. I'm not expecting you to comment on them. But the layout, we talked about that before, the layout, if you had any concerns with the layout. It doesn't seem like anybody had any concerns with the layout. We know, as the engineer, my responsibility is, number one is public safety. We need to make sure that the roadway is designed properly for any emergency vehicles, any pedestrian traffic. This entire site has sidewalks around the entire development, so it's gonna be a great walking path for residents, and to be able to walk safely as well.
That's required by the state now, isn't it?
Not necessarily, no.
No.
There's many, we just did a subdivision in Middleborough with no sidewalks, no curbing, just natural drainage swales.
Chris, we have sidewalks on both sides? Or just one
There
side?
are sidewalks on, I believe, just one side.
Yeah, one side, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Just pretty, just tell them about the road width and all that business.
So as far as the stormwater goes, the original application, along Westport Lakes Drive was designed to handle a portion of this roadway. So it's gonna be roughly a high point right in this area here. And then this water goes into 2 sets of catch basins and then ties into the drainage system in Lakes Drive. It was designed to handle that. And also now it's gonna be actually a little bit less because we took out that cul-de-sac area here.
At the, where it mates up with Westlake, what's the visibility looking left and right if you're coming out of?
There's no issues with sight distance here. We'll demonstrate that.
Where you go, okay.
It's a straight line, so there's no obstruction.
So as far as the utility plans go, portion of the sewer is gonna be gravity, and then a portion of it is gonna be a force main to get it back to the septic area, just because it's not enough depth to do the whole thing in gravity. So each unit, we're gonna try to have a well for each individual house.
So this is something you don't know yet?
Well, you don't know until you drill, what the flow's gonna be. If the rate's gonna be high enough, we can have a shared well for 2 or 3 houses. But certainly, the goal would be to try to have 1 per unit. Doesn't mean we can't do that. That's something really, that's
So-
something we're gonna need
Yeah, you
to
sort of-
provide.
So you told us the first time you did point it through, is that everybody was gonna have their own well, and it was gonna be a shared septic. So now it's the first time we're hearing that that may not be possible.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Yeah, that's not what he
I
said.
did not say that.
No.
The first time?
I said we're
The
proposing.
first time he did, I did.
Yeah.
Each house is.
That's right, that's what I said, the
And
first
that's
time.
not changed. What he's saying, you raised the question, we don't know until you go through the process and you actually,
Yeah.
drill to see how much, you have to get a certain rate of water and all that business. So we don't know what's gonna happen until we go for a permit and we actually start drilling. So the intent is, and that has not changed, 1 well and 1 1 well for each property, each house. If that changes, then we would have to advise the board, we will comply with all Board of
It's
Health
gonna be the Board of
regulations.
Health regulation.
Right.
That oversees that. It's gonna be a shared septic for the entire development.
Right.
Each house will have, again, I mean, these are all Board of Health jurisdiction stuff, but each house will have its own septic tank as well. And as far as, other utilities, most likely these houses will be on propane tanks, or they may just be all electric. These are things that really aren't, we don't have to provide right now, that's something more construction specifications we would do later on. What you will have is a plan that shows a public safety, addresses all public safety issues, adequate width of roadways, which we have here is a 24-foot width roadway within a 40-foot layout. All the required turning radiuses, and so forth. We've also will be providing street trees along the entire development, which will be part of the plan set, the landscaping plan. We do also plan on recharging the rooftops for each individual house. So each house will have its own individual recharge system, which the downspouts will be tied into, which will minimize the runoff to the stormwater basins. At the end of the day, in regards to stormwater, the engineer is responsible to make sure that the post-development runoff offsite is less than the pre-development. Again, you're gonna have 4 engineers look at this, so I can guarantee you that the runoff is gonna be an improvement to what currently exists now. I'm not sure if the butters have drainage problems now, but after the end of this development, although we are seeing a lot of impervious area here, it's gonna be an improvement to what currently exists. And we do that by these stormwater detention basins, which stores the water, infiltrates it into the ground, and has overflows for larger storm events. Again, we talked about the shared septic system. That's gonna be in the front of the site here. This is gonna be a Presby septic system, which we will be submitting that to the Board of Health, most likely next month, while we're ongoing here with the zoning board. We're also gonna be submitting to the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission kept the hearing open, which was the last case. It's been open for almost a year. They have asked us to refile a notice of intent, so we're gonna do that, submit the new set with the stormwater report, and the abutters will get notified. Everybody within 100 feet of the site will get a new notification, so we plan on doing that, same time filing with the filing going on here. So we can hope to have their approval probably before zoning. As I said, there's not really many changes. Any of the changes have been actually a reduction in the impervious area, so we feel conservation could probably approve this pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have field engineering do the review. It just makes sense since the development really didn't change. And their field engineer's seen this design, so as an engineer, it seems to make sense for them to do the review again. Certainly, if MBL has any questions or comments in regards to the stormwater, we'll address their concerns as well. But typically, I mean, Fallon Corp also does peer reviews, and most of the time, engineers, we're all reviewing the same thing. Some peer reviewers may have different ideas in regards to engineering than others, but at the end of the day, I think it all equal out to the design. And so, as I said, we hope to have these plans to you last week, but unfortunately we didn't wrap them up, and we don't want to submit anything that's not fully complete. As I said, these got to be stamped engineered plans. We need to make sure this is a large project. We want to make sure that we can fully review everything and double check, dot our i's and cross our t's on the engineering that was previously done. So as I said, we hope to have this hopefully by either Friday or early next week.
I just have a question. I'm sort of fascinated by the well issue. Is it common to have this dense of development with individual wells so close together?
So as I mentioned, that development in Mattapoisett, each lot has its own lot. And some of those lots are 10,000 square feet.
And these lots are how much?
These lots are,
I think they range from about 9 to about 13, 14,000, 15,000.
And that's not proven to be any problem at all? And how many units are in that development in Mattapoisett?
Oh, we did 90 in Westport, all individual wells.
Pardon?
Briggs Landing is, yeah.
But they're bigger lots, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the soil is soils here are pretty good. But we never know until we get down to, you
Yeah,
know,
most of these lots
you're
are-
drilling pretty deep.
18,000, 19,000, 11, 11, 11, 10, 12. So, very similar.
I think there might be a couple of smaller lots, but overall.
Yeah, the smallest lot I see here is 10,000. Largest lot, 28,000. These side, these lots are a little bit bigger, 15, 17.
Some of them are 30,000.
Yeah. These are a little bit bigger here, 20,000.
While we're, if I may? While we're on the subject of plans, the regulations, basically, what we're supposed to be submitting is something similar to what would normally be submitted to a planning board. In a planning board, you would submit a set of plans, which are preliminary plans. The planning board then would approve a preliminary set of plans, subject to the final set of plans. So it's sort of unusual to at this stage, to have plans developed to this extent. The regulations say that we only have to submit preliminary plans adequate enough for the board to make a decision on what's being proposed. So we're going above and beyond that. And we're submitting what I would call almost a definitive set of plans, which is highly unusual in a 40B. Now, even though what I just said of the regulations, more and more towns, boards want, you know, as much detail as we possibly. So we're submitting a fair amount. So I just wanted to make it clear that preliminary, final. So even though once the board makes a final decision, and they'll have conditions in that permit, we still have to come back with the final set that comply with the permit. So even though we have a preliminary set of plans, that's almost a definitive stage. And the board has certain conditions. Those have to come in the final set of plans to be approved by the board and your peer review person again, to be sure that we've complied.
Any comment on that?
I mean, that's a standard plan set there that any board would get. It's not any more detailed or less.
It's more detailed than what the regulations call for.
It's certainly not, I mean, I don't want to cross-examine the engineer, but those are certainly not final plans, construction plans. So that's a normal plan set. That would typically be submitted, peer reviewer will comment on it, you'll condition that. And then it's true, later on, you'll have conditions in your permit, if they come back and they seek their building permit, they've got to, you know, their final construction plans have to comply with your conditions of approval, or if they have to seek a modification. But you're not getting anything super fantastic. There's nothing inadequate about it, but that's typically the type of detail that you would get in the comprehensive hearing process.
Good, thank you.
Also, the house designs have not changed, same footprints of the houses that we.
If there's any other comment, I'd like to open it up to the public unless there's anything else you want to present.
No, that was it.
I just have one question,
Yep.
Roger. The town has a bylaw or a building, a subdivision rule on the length, maximum length of a one-way type road. Does that sound familiar to you?
Sure.
How long would that be?
I don't know what the town requirement is off the top.
1,200 feet.
It's usually 12 to 1,600.
Yeah.
So, 'cause they did change it. I was just curious how this stacks up to that. What's the footage from 177 along the existing roadway, and then the two roadways that you have going to the houses, one
So
north
we're at 490 feet from the beginning.
From, what do you mean by the beginning? 177?
No,
No, from Westport, Dyke.
Westport Lakes Road.
Westport Lake Road.
Right, that's
So from Westport Lakes Road, from here is 490,
okay.
and then from here, you come Approximately.
To either end?
To either end, roughly,
500 roughly.
that's about 750 feet.
Okay, so,
Close to the
but then you have to add the distance from the road that you started with all the way out to 177. There's no other intersecting roads, correct? It's all one way?
Correct.
So I was just wondering how safe that is. I don't know anything about that part, why they have that bylaw, but
Yeah.
I just want to know how far off we are.
Yeah, I can get that number for you in the next meeting.
Yeah, it'd be helpful. You don't happen to
The
know,
most
do you,
important thing
Manny?
is it's safe for,
Manny's on the planning
Yes,
board,
I know.
so,
it's safe for fire apparatus
yeah,
to turn around, which
yeah.
is the most.
Well, I know they need the turnaround.
Yeah.
So,
You know.
so that's one of the waivers we've asked for too. We've submitted a list, a preliminary list of waivers in our application, and that's one.
That would be in it, but I'm
Yes.
just wondering how
Yeah, I
much of a
understand. I
variance are we
understand.
talking about?
And I believe the fire chief,
Manny's trying to talk.
Well, if he does, he has to come to the microphone. You want to say something? Can you, before you, excuse me, microphone? And name and address?
Manuel Soers, 316 Gifford Road. I'm also one of the planning board members. The plan that you submitted prior, saying engineering peer review, that was a plan that came before us that I believe was denied. It didn't meet zoning.
it was withdrawn, it was not.
Yes,
denied.
withdrawn, okay.
Right.
So that plan was withdrawn. And there are comments on file on what stage it was at with the planning board. So, I mean, that stuff could be reviewed. But that's neither here nor there. You have a new plan before us. I kind of have a question on the peer review on the Board of Health on the Title V stuff. You said you're going to submit it, you're submitting to conservation, you're submitting to the Board of Health. I think that all of that stuff, the wells, the septics, all of that should be submitted to the peer review for the 40B.
That's not what we're going to do. And I'll explain why. Typically, this is all post-permit. Once a permit is issued, we then have to comply with Title V. We have to comply with the Board of Health.
Right.
Those things, so that's done not in advance, because if we did that and the board change, then we'd have to go back. So all of that is post-permit, the permitting for the well and the permitting for the septic system. And we would submit a detailed, and Christian has some of that already done, but detailed septic system design for review by the Board of Health.
And that's a D-night septic system.
I'm not sure about that. You have to ask Christian. Christian?
Yeah, the septic system will meet all the state standards.
But if you have local requirements, though, that, you have to act on those or they get waived. So we're gonna have to figure that out. I mean, the engineer said he's submitting them coming up, not post-permit. You should get
No, no.
copies of those at least and then decide what they are. In other words, your more restrictive regulations, you stand in the shoes of both Board of Health and Conservation Commission. So they have you don't have jurisdiction over the state part of it. They will have to act on that in accordance with their application, but somebody has to make sure that somebody either comments to you or imposes conditions relating to the more restrictive local regulations.
Which
So
would,
you need to monitor that, the applicant really needs to keep you apprised of what's going on with that, because if one hand doesn't know what the other is doing, you could potentially waive those requirements.
Unknowingly.
Right.
That's-
And that's-
and just to be
that's-
clear, we have a denitrification requirement.
We will comply with Title V. I don't know what Title V says.
That's not Title V.
Well, then,
We're-
we may not have, we may ask for a waiver, you may deny it, you may approve it, then we go from there to see
Okay.
what happens.
And make sure you're aware that we have a more strict requirement.
And that was basically I think that was the planning board member's point, is,
Right.
you have, just as Cynthia had said, you have these in Constance, the more restrictive regulations. If they need waivers, they need to, you have the sole jurisdiction to act on that. And you can't rely on the Board of Health or the Conservation Commission for the more restrictive regulation.
Okay.
But just to be clear, we don't go to the Board of Health in advance. In advance on every single house for the well. We don't go to them in advance to the final permit.
Yeah, the septic I'm talking about, not the well.
Okay. Same thing with septic system.
But it's only one septic system.
Yeah, so you could say.
You're only going once.
So you could say in your decision that we do not waive the request for denitrification. You could say that. So then we would have to comply with that decision or appeal that decision. So we would most likely comply with it.
Yeah, and this is a lip agreement, so we're trying to come together with it.
Yeah, I understand, and I'm just, yes.
And
We try to comply with as many local bylaws as possible.
And the wells and the septic, that will be a Title V, and you won't be able to get a waiver from the town. Possibly you'll be able to get a waiver from the town for the D-night. Not that I'm sure with the density here that you're gonna get that, but, and the proximity to the resource areas. But my other concern is, so Westport Lakes is a approved subdivision for construction in the town. It's never been, it was never to be accepted, it was to remain a private road. However, it's never been completed,
Correct.
and there's still a surety left there for completion.
123,000, right?
So, and we have no idea, we have no as-built, we have no idea that any of this stuff is constructed correctly. And I think they've probably fallen between the cracks, because the last time anybody looked at anything was in 2017. So that would be my concerns on that.
But that would be there again with, okay.
Thanks, Manny. Since we opened it up.
There was a couple questions that I had asked for clarification for at last meeting that hasn't been addressed.
Okay.
One was the fact that your named attorney is Brian Corey, who's disbarred.
It's not disbarred, that's totally wrong.
Uh,
That's wrong.
It's
It's wrong.
it's suspended,
He's suspended,
suspended.
He decided,
right,
if you have a
Okay.
problem with Brian Corey, call Brian Corey.
yeah.
So
But I would
what-
like to know who your attorney is.
We don't have one right now, and we don't need
Okay.
one. We
Right.
don't have to have one.
I'm just, again,
If we need.
it was a question I had asked the
Yeah.
last time, which our attorney said was under my purview to ask for a response.
Sure,
That is all I'm asking for.
Okay.
You
We-
don't have to get argumentative.
okay.
Okay,
We do not-
the
what-
second question I had was about a statement that was in Bradford Dean's bio. And it says, from 2010 to 2016, Brad spearheaded the development, construction, and successful sale of the Westport Lakes Drive.
Correct.
A premier subdivision. In your response, which you did respond to that, I would like, this is from the letter from Bradford Dean, I would like to emphasize that aside from 2015 and to 2017, I had no ownership or decision-making authority. So what is it? Is it between, you only had decision-making
was-
between 2015 and 2017?
It was-
Or did he spearhead it from 2010 to 2016?
He did not.
Then
The
he,
documents speak for themselves.
they do, they're in, they don't, they're,
They're not in conflict.
yes, they are,
No, they're not.
yes, they are.
Read what he,
He says
I'm
in
not
20.
not gonna get into an argument or.
I'm not gonna get into our, I like an
Fine.
answer. And I think I have a, do I have a
My
right
answer
to?
is the
do I
documents stand for
do I
themselves.
have a right to ask for clarification?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
From 2010 to 2016, Brad spearheaded the development, construction, and successful sale. How is that having no decision-making authority except for 2015 to 2017?
That was after after the property was sold to Blue Cat. That's when he made the decision for the sale. Him and his sisters made the decision for the sale to,
I'm not, that's not my question.
well, that's it, that's my answer.
Well, you're not answering my question.
I just did.
No, you
You
didn't.
don't like the answer, but that's my answer. He was not involved. If,
Read
fine, then,
this. Read this,
I'm not,
sir.
I'm not reading it. That's my decision. You don't like, I'm sorry, that's my answer.
We're the board
He-
here.
I-
We're giving you a permit, so I think you better answer.
I just did. You're indicating that he
If it says,
From your tone and what you're saying.
from my tone, how about your tone, sir? From 2010 to 2016, Brad spearheaded the development construction of West Fork Lake Drive. Here he said he had no decision-making authority of Westport Lakes Drive except for 2015 to 2016.
Right, he had no decision regarding Westport Lakes Road. His decision.
No, Drive.
Westport Lakes Drive, whatever you want to call it. He had no decision.
Westport Lakes, the whole development.
No.
That's what he's saying.
No, you're wrong.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
not-
wrong. Great.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna love it when you get our decision then. I'm wrong.
Fine, I'll appeal to the Housing Appeals Committee.
All right, all right, all right.
Fine, you know, this is, you're putting words into what he's right. If you have a problem, I'll bring Brad to the next meeting. Okay, I'm telling you right now, he has certified, he has no decision-making capacity regarding what you're referring to, I think, is the American Links property, which was the entire property. They, at one point in time, after the father passed, Blue Cat, so there was no decision.
Sir, I'm satisfied with your answer.
Thank you.
Open it up to the public. And please, if you've addressed the board in a previous meeting, please don't reiterate what you've already said. We already have it on record, so anything that you have that's new, you're welcome to come up.
Diane
Name and address.
Kiltico, 171 Mouse Mill Road. In the past, when they presented this a year or so ago, we received a notice. We did not receive a notice about this meeting or any other meetings. Someone put on the door a flyer to talk about this meeting. So I'm asking, why did we not receive notices?
What do
All
you
the
mean by
butters
this
received
meeting?
Huh?
Are you talking about tonight's meeting?
Yes, why?
It was a continuance. We don't
Right, we don't do
send
that.
notices of continuances.
Okay.
We send notices to legal abutters for the first hearing, which we did. That's why we had so many people here.
Okay, well, whoever
That's the
put
re-
that
that's why
notice
you
on our
don't-
door, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? No?
Oh, no,
Okay. Again, anything that you didn't discuss last time?
So I respect what you say, however, it was brought up again today, and it definitely needs to be clarified. The packet, I have not seen it, I'll wait to see it, I'll ask for a copy of that. However, the continuation of Mr. Custon to deny the fact that Brad Dean has anything to do with this or Westport Lakes Drive is really, there's no base for that. Documentation, I have it too. I supplied the documents to the board last meeting, okay? And I have to reiterate those documents because he, again, from the first meeting, he said 5 distinct separate times that the current applicant, Mr. Dean, has nothing to do with the current development to which they are looking to build this off of, which is complete, sir,
he does
sir,
have understood.
I was not allowed to interrupt you, so I would appreciate if you allow me to speak,
I'll wait till you're done.
because you've been doing that all night and it's disrespectful. I have the floor, I would like to speak,
Go ahead.
without interruption.
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Attorney Pierce, how relevant is all this discussion about
Brad Dean.
Dean?
Well,
I mean, we're spending an awful lot of time discussing one person's background.
It's very
How
relevant.
important is that for,
the application does,
You what?
it is in your province. I
Oh.
agree, it's a little far afield because again, you're focused on conditions about how to condition the project. But I mean, if there's I'm not saying there are, but if there are misrepresentations in the application or that the application of a project eligibility letter, those are issues that certainly are okay to go into to a certain extent. I wouldn't spend all of your hearing time on it. And it's a little confusing at best. And it also goes to, you know,
What I'm getting
if we're,
is,
you know, the elephant in the room is, well, what's going on with this roadway? And if somebody really does have more involvement in the project than it's being let onto, you know, that would be in everybody's interest to try to figure that out.
And a matter of, are we dealing with someone that we can trust in good faith?
well, that's really the question that I have is how much weight can we put on what some person did years ago versus what?
It would be difficult. So to your point, it would be difficult to deny the project based on those types of issues, to do conditions based on those types of issues. But it's certainly something within the realm of reasonableness to inquire to a certain degree.
So we sort of want to understand it.
Yeah, and you know, if somebody has a problem with what was represented, it's nice to give them a chance to go into that to a certain extent. But again, not, you know, to take all night on it or you know, the full hearing time. That wouldn't be worthwhile doing.
Right.
It would be nice if people could just make their presentations and not be interrupted, and you can take all that information under advisement.
I'd like
To your
to hear
point,
what he has to
I don't like to stop any inquiry or subject matter in a 40B hearing, because they're quite wide-ranging. And oftentimes there is a give and take that are sort of on issues not technically within jurisdiction, but the process encourages a give and take, exchange of information and creative solutions, that type of thing. So, you know, you're not limited to a certain, you know, letter of the law, of what you can inquire into.
Okay.
But I would tend to maybe think about exhausting the discussion on these topics.
Mr. Chairman,
No.
just one quick question. So, if there are specific questions, so the whole intent of this book was to try to prove, and maybe there's confusion about what is Westport Lakes Road. The Westport Lakes Road that I am referring to is 2022, 23.
Yeah, I understand. I'm talking about the development,
So if there.
subdivision.
Yes. So if there is a particular concern, and that's what I tried to do, is prove that Brad was not involved in in Coastal Harvest LLC, who is the owner and the buyer, and was approved by the planning board. Brad was not involved in it. So I tried to, so if there's a particular question that someone has, if you could please put that in writing to me, I'll be glad to further
Right.
look at it.
Okay,
I think we should
I hate to,
Can you, send
I'm
the,
sorry, Brent Pereira,
Well,
26
well,
Westport
well,
Lakes
okay.
Drive.
go ahead.
So here's why I think it's important. There's so much back and forth about who's in control of the road now and who's responsible to finish what was left unfinished. Moreover, did they not finish it? They have no as-built for the road. There's no certificate of compliances. There's nothing. The current infrastructure has never been maintained, okay? The reason why this is important to myself is that Brad Dean controlled the development up until a certain point, okay? My argument is that he still has a hand in the mix of Coastal Harvest. And to prove that, the documents that I provided last meeting, it clearly shows that Brad Dean, along with his sister, who, if you can refer to the documents, I supplied them last. So the manager's certificate that was issued in 2016 clearly shows that Shannon Corey, Lisa Esteen, and Bradford Thomas Dean are the managers for that roadway, for that development, okay? I'll skip over some stuff, but as recent of 2022, okay, there was a lot release, okay, from Coastal Harvest, two Coastal Harvest, basically, LLC, Blue Cat LLC, right? Coastal Harvest LLC to Blue Cat LLC, right? Releases onto the said Coastal Harvest LLC, okay? Shannon Corey is still signing documents up until 2022, which I believe that Mr. Dean submitted his started the submission process for the last project to which they keep trying to show, which it has no bearing to this one currently. So as far as responsibility for what's going on now, I have good reason to believe that Brad Dean still maintains some of that responsibility because he's part of Coastal Harvest, even though there's a clear denial of that, okay? This clearly shows, and we have some documents, we have other documents to show that he along with Blue Cat LLC, to which he still, I feel, is a member of, they're still signing lot releases up until this day, which clearly shows that he still has a hand in that project. The talk that he's absolved of everything that he didn't do in the past is a problem for me. He's still involved because of the fact that he still controls lot releases. He still should be considered potentially partially responsible for what has not been finished. Beyond that, as far as the scope of the roadway, Westport Lakes Drive, as it stands, or road, however you want to refer it to, okay, the adequacy of the road clearly is an issue. Everybody argues that the road surface is great. It's not. It's 17 years old. There's no as-built. There's no certificate of compliances for the stormwater infrastructure. There's no certificate of compliance for any of the retention fields that have not been maintained, not one single bit, in 17 years plus. They're part of the peer review. This all should be looked at. And I can't stand here for 3 meetings now with Mr. Cusson saying that, Brad Dean, well, we have nothing to do with this. It's crazy. There's been I'll move to my next point that I didn't talk about last meeting. I agree that there has been a significant misrepresentation for this entire project. I intend to submit some type of appeal to Mass Housing, simply based on the fact that the application filed by Brad Dean is flawed. I pointed some of those things out in some submissions that I gave last meeting. I would be glad to point the other issues, but I believe that's going to be something that I'm going to have to take up, or somebody should take up with Mass Housing, as far as the actual application. Mr. Dean left information off of the application that I feel should have been on it, to include previous applications. He didn't submit any of that information. Okay, I have, sir, if you keep talking in the background, I'm not going to, I'm literally not.
I'll be glad to answer when you're done.
Yeah, I would appreciate if you didn't keep saying, yes, no, that's not true.
Well, I agree with you on the road.
Okay? So I submit that the application in and of itself, to include Brad Dean's bio, which has been conflicted today by Mr. Cusson by him writing a second one, that doesn't match the first one. Yeah, I have the application, the board has them all inside your booklet. You can see right from the first page. And I don't know if I'm wasting my time because this is something that needs to be taken up with Mass Housing, but I think it's pertinent for the board to know that everything wasn't divulged in the application to 40B Mass Housing. Okay? They misrepresent the acreage as far as the lot. They list Brian Corey as the representing attorney at the time of application, which clearly he was in some type of suspension at that time, which I think is a conflict. I'll tell you why I think that in a moment. On page 26 of 23 of the application to Mass Housing, it specifically asks you to mention previous development efforts. It's blank. He literally proposed an almost identical plan last year and withdrew because the board was going to deny it. You can check the meetings, you'll see. They withdrew because they knew the board was going to deny it, the planning board. I have that application number. If anyone would like to reference it, it's 23-036 SP-ILF-SPA-LID. He failed to mention the previous application. I think that's pretty important, to know that despite the fact that he withdrew, I think Mass Housing should have known that he applied, was running into some conflicts, and then, for whatever reason, withdrew. I happen to think those reasons are clear and concise if you watch the other meetings for the planning board. They have significant issues with their plan. They were brought up, and it appears like before they were going to get denied, they withdrew. I understand why, because they wouldn't have been able to apply for this 40B within 1 year's time because of the cool-down period. There's some questions about vernal pools being on the site, may or not be applicable. So as far as the confliction, from what I previously stated, on page 17 is basically an affidavit. An affidavit that says, everything that I provided in this document is true to my knowledge, right? Basically, he signs it. There's no date on it, but he signs it. Is there any pending litigation with respect to any of the applicant's entities? They say no. Maybe this is not important, but one of the entities was a suspended attorney that's allegedly representing them at the time of application. It's a problem. Okay? The current ANRAD for the project that was filed for the previous application to which he's using again, which I understand that's allowed as far as the wetlands delineation. I'm not sure if I spoke at this last meeting, but they filed with the application an expired ANRAD. I've been to conservation. I've confirmed that they have not requested an extension for this. I stand before you to say that I believe that they should have filed for the extension, and because they didn't, they need to refile. Besides the notice of intent, they need to refile the ORAD, or they need to refile for the ANRAD, which is the abbreviated wetlands delineation. It's expired. They're proposing expired documents. With regards to Mr. Farland's comment earlier regarding the stormwater and its effects onto Westport Lakes Drive. Mr. Cusson, well, I'm sorry. Mr. Farland brought to your attention the last meeting of the last peer review. He brought it up for whatever reason. He didn't bring it up in the first meeting for some reason. Why? Why would you hide this until they were notified of the peer review or the potential peer reviewer? If they knew in their pocket that they were going to pull this out and go, well, did you know that a peer review was done for almost the identical project a year ago, and it's right here? Can we use this company? Apparently they can't because they represent the town, and I think they shouldn't have known that. I think they were delaying the process. You could have picked a peer review last meeting, except for this. He contested it. Is there any objections? Yes, there is. He objected to the peer review. You only had one. They bring this in with, I believe, the knowledge that he said it today. Can't even use it. Can't even use this because they represent the town. Mr. Custon said it today. Why would you bring this if not to drag the process out? We have a window of 6 months for the 40B. There's been one extension. I would propose that, based on the fact that Nothing of significance has been given to the board yet for peer review, which should have already started, considering the time frame. Nothing of substance has been submitted yet for a peer review to even take place. How does the time clock keep running when they refuse to submit documentation that's pertinent to the peer review, which is probably the most important thing of this whole project, to have somebody else look at it and say whether it makes sense or these changes need to be made. As a matter of fact, they did suggest changes of nearly the same exact project. One of them specifically, which I think is the most important because I stand here to argue that Westport Lakes Drive is not an adequate road, and the infrastructure on Westport Lakes Drive is not adequate currently. On the second page, or third page, sheet 3, number 10. No drainage information has been provided for this area near Westport Lakes Drive. Reduction of flow in TSS does not seem to have considered. Will the existing drainage system on Westport Lake Drive be adequate to handle these additional flows? Mr. Fallon brought this to your attention, not me. He brought it to your attention. And in this document specifically talks about things that were problematic for the last application, which is nearly identical. They keep saying it. There's a drawing here of the last application. Why? Why are we making a comparison? Why is there a comparison to the last application to this one? And then you bring this in. I didn't bring it in. You opened the box. Pandora's box was open on this. Now the board can look at this and make reference to it. Even though it doesn't apply to this project, I guarantee there's going to be similar issues with this one when, if they ever submit the documents so that a peer review can be conducted. There's been no consideration so far by any of the applicant's representatives on how this is going to affect the current infrastructure on Westport Lakes Drive, to include the stormwater drainage, the current retention ponds, the current retention basins, the current retention areas. They're completely overgrown.
You about ready to wrap this up?
I could digress for today, but I guarantee you I'm going to have more,
Okay.
or potentially even after somebody else might speak.
Mr. Chair, I need to respond to just a couple of things, and I can understand why there's some confusion. When Blue Cat sold the property to Coastal Harvest, they took back a mortgage. They're acting as a bank. So when somebody goes to sell a lot, you have to get a release of that mortgage, a partial release. And that is signed by Brad and/or Sharon as Blue Cat. So they have to sign a release so the buyer of that lot can go forward and get a mortgage. That's pretty standard banking procedures. So yes, Shannon and/or Brad are signing that partial release, and they have the right to do that. Doesn't mean they're involved in Coastal Harvest.
They got a financial interest.
I'm sorry?
Don't they have a financial interest if they're holding mortgages? If they're holding mortgages.
No,
for Coastal
no,
Harvest,
they have a
financial-
financial interest, in just like a bank.
Yeah.
So they're acting as a bank, so the bank is responsible for doing it?
I'm not talking about, you keep harping on the responsibility of the road, and that's not,
Well, that's what he's saying.
but that's not,
He's saying that Brad is still involved in Westport Lakes, in Coastal Harvest. He is not involved in Coastal Harvest. He is acting as an officer of Blue Cat and releasing, and granting a partial release from the mortgage.
Right.
So that may or may not be, I don't consider that a financial interest from the point of view of the developer is developing that property and makes $1 million, that some of that goes to Brad.
No,
Okay, that's all I'm
I don't
saying.
dispute the
Okay.
ownership and the fact that Brad has nothing to do with Coastal Harvest, but I think Brad has a financial interest in
He does
Coastal
not,
Harvest.
he does not.
He holds his mortgages, if he don't.
That's
he don't-
not I'll admit, he holds the mortgage. That does not give him a financial interest in the development, no more than a bank would have.
Is there anything else that you had comments on?
That's not what I said. You're
That's
twisting
not,
it.
okay, fine. We did advise Mass Housing of his previous development efforts, and the reason it was with that, you want to know, or maybe the board wants to know, as to why the application before the planning board was withdrawn. Do you want to,
I think our representative of the planning board can,
it was,
that.
no, he said it was denied. He was wrong. I corrected him, he said it was withdrawn. The reason it was withdrawn, as they were going through the process, almost to the end of the process, the interpretation of the bylaw by the planning board, and maybe the applicant did not understand it further, was that there had to be a congregate, for 55 and over bylaw, there had to be a congregate component. And the developer had no intention of providing a congregate facility. There was, and we had talked about that at the last meeting I was at. So there was also, there's no waiting period, there was also a component of that development for a certain percentage of affordable units in that development under the 55 and over bylaw. That's the reason it was withdrawn. Not because they were gonna get a denial, just the opposite. They would have gotten approval and they couldn't live without approval.
Yeah, well, that's not really of our purview anyway.
Just answering the question.
Roger, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Who's responsible for maintaining those retention ponds that I've heard a lot about that have been neglected?
Coastal Harvest. His name, I can give you his name.
it's
Yeah.
Coastal Harvest, it's two guys.
Yeah, so they own Coastal Harvest. They're responsible for complying with the terms and conditions of the planning board. The planning board and the Conservation Commission. So the Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions. So the developer tells the board what they want to do. The board, Conservation, says, okay, we'll issue an order of conditions by which you have to comply with. When you comply with all of those things, you have to go back to the Conservation Commission to get a certificate of compliance. They never did that. And Mr. Perez is absolutely correct on the issues that he's raised about Westport Lakes Road. It's Coastal Harvest is responsible for that. Now, it gets into a little issue that I'm not really clear about, but when you look at the homeowners association, which I've given you a copy of, it clearly says the purpose of the homeowners association is to maintain and snow removal, et cetera, of Westport Lakes Road. That's the responsibility of the owners of the HOA, which includes Coastal Harvest. They own many of those lots as well. Most of them. So to answer your question, it's Coastal Harvest's responsibility to make because overgrown, that may, and that, as Ms. Pearl raised and others, that may or may not affect some issues. There was some wetland replication that had to be done, which was never done. There's a whole bunch of things that never done. And the town didn't do anything about trying to get it done.
So you're telling me, if I'm understanding you correctly, Coastal Harvest has been negligent in the way they've been doing this?
I agree with that, yes. Yeah, and I think the town possibly, nobody ever forced them, in the developments that I'm in, if I haven't done something by a particular date, I get a call from the planning board, I get a call from the conservation, what the hell's going on? Apparently, that's just recently happened. There's something that's just recently happened. So yes, I think the neighbors and the town should have been pushing a little bit as well, but, so nobody was bothering him, so he didn't do anything. He has no, if I was the developer, I would be trying to do that work and sell those lots to get money. He's been sitting on these lots for 10 years. Yeah, I think he's only sold 4 or 5, yeah.
Now, is there a reason why you said the answer to George's question, why you said Coastal Harvest and not initially say the homeowners association and Coastal Harvest?
I think it's Coastal Harvest, in my opinion, it's Coastal Harvest's responsibility to bring that road up to where it should be. And then in my opinion, the HOA would kick in.
Yeah.
So when it's, and the HOA, there's an attachment to the HOA to say what maintenance they're responsible for. And they're responsible for they're only supposed to plow that road when there's 3 inches of snow. I mean, I would think they'd be responsible for sanding and different, but that's what it says.
Right.
So who's been doing that snow removal? I assume it's Coastal Harvest. I don't think the homeowners, maybe they have. I don't know who's been doing it. But yeah, it's Coastal Harvest's responsibility. So in my opinion, once that road is done and completed, then the HOA should take over. But the HOA documents have been on record for a long time.
Right.
Mr. Pereira is not part of the HOA documents, but the rest of the lots are.
Yeah. How does one become a member of the HOA?
It's on record when you buy the lot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why does he have a choice of whether he belongs or doesn't
He
belong?
doesn't have a choice, but my understanding is that the HOA documents, Coastal Harvest did not put on the HOA documents until after Mr. Pereira purchased the house. I think he purchased the house from Brad.
Yeah. Well, no.
Hello?
Is he allowed to ask me questions at this point? Yes.
Yeah.
I'll explain with complete clarity on that, okay? If I may.
Good.
Brad Dean, when they formed Westport Lakes Drive subdivision, he was finally permitted after a number of changes. He very keenly exempted himself, along with other lots in the family, from any HOA and any covenances on Westport Lakes Drive. That's my property. I bought it from Brad Dean.
Right.
The covenances didn't convey on the deed
Because, okay.
because he exempted himself.
Because they did.
Why?
Because they were put on after the closing.
Can we stop this? Can we stop this interruption? I stood back there and.
Well, you keep giving wrong information, so I'm not gonna stand by.
it's 100
Hey, that's enough.
It's 100% correct.
That's enough.
You can see it in every document.
Okay.
They have to divulge this information to any potential new home buyers and lot buyers. My neighbors all know that I'm exempt because Brad Dean exempted himself. Not only did he exempt himself from the lot that I bought off of him, the only house that he built on the entire road for 17 years. We're arguing who has responsibility over the road. Are we really standing here and taking consideration that Brad Dean assumes none of that for 14 years? He never upgraded any of the stuff, anything. And then all of a sudden he sells it? That magically absolves him from the responsibility that he had in the past, to which he agreed to when he got approved through the planning board for this subdivision? Are we really there? We're saying that he has no responsibility, no culpability, because he no longer owns it? And we show definitively that he still has stake in the matter. He has financial stake in the matter. He's not a bank. He's not a financial institution.
You're reiterating.
He's a person.
You know, can we move on to something that you
Okay.
haven't already said?
What was the other question, okay? The HOA, look at the document. Yes, you want to argue who's in charge of the road at the moment? It's Coastal Harvest. But my argument, if we want to get past who's responsible for the road, let's get past it. Admit what actually happened, or what's still occurring. He's continually making misstatements about Brad Dean's responsibility and his interactions with Coastal Harvest and his culpability of potentially the subdivision that exists, that he started, that now he wants permission to do this. As far as adequacy of the road, like, I'll just touch it real quick. I've already spoken about this, so I think my position is pretty clear on the adequacy of the road. Whoever's responsible to fix it before this happens, I don't care who that is. But until that's done, the town cannot allow this project to resume by any manner. As a matter of fact, I believe that the whole 40B application and the process is flawed because of this problem. Also because of the non-compliance to the board's requests for information that's very significant to the application process. Again, 3 months in. 3 months in, we have almost nothing.
You've already said all this.
They're arguing that the plans don't really need to show the important stuff. I argue that it 100% has to show the important stuff. How does the peer review take this on otherwise? Thank you.
How you doing? Matt Wall, 20 Westport Lakes Drive. Two things. My concern regarding the homeowners association as a potential part of the association, once it reaches that 75% of the lots declarant to the homeowners, who, if we're to take that responsibility, why are we responsible for access that more houses, which it doesn't look like we're ever going to meet a responsibility because it's never been developed. So where then does the responsibility lie? You know, we can say it's Coastal Harvest, but we all know that Coastal Harvest is just MIA, right? I mean, I think everybody's in agreement in that. Well, they're just non-responsive, whatever it be. So we can say it's Coastal Harvest, but who's going to hold someone responsible to that? Because at the end of the day, if I'm responsible for the road, why am I responsible for a road that in the American Lakes Trust, which we all signed as tenants of properties in there, why are we then responsible for more road traffic than what we have on our road now? When more of the road traffic is going to cause more of the damage to the road, and we're responsible for the upkeep. So it's kind of twofold. So it's like, okay, if we get someone to finish the road and the road's all good, that's great. Why am I responsible as a homeowner of that road? I understand my responsibility because I travel on that road, but if 38, 50 homes, whatever it is, how many cars are going to be going up and down that road versus the original plan? Because the original covenants represent and reference the original plan, not this, not another road being cut through. So I think it's something that should be brought up, that the town needs to take into effect that we can say it's Coastal Harvest's responsibility, but who's going to take the responsibility? In the event that Coastal Harvest doesn't do anything, what do we do? Just throw our hands up in the air? I mean, I don't think we should approve this until we have that kind of figured out.
I have a quick answer.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick, as Mr. Catino raised the question, I don't think it's their responsibility at all to finish the road. I think the road has got to be finished. And the intent of that HOA is for the maintenance of the road once it's all done, right? And including snow removal and all those kinds of things. And there are, I don't know, 20, 22 lots, and there are 5 homeowners, 4 members of the HOA. So I don't think it's their responsibility at all.
Well, I actually brought up at the previous hearing why the new HOA couldn't be merged with their existing HOA. And we feel it's not legal to do so.
Correct.
But their HOA is going to take the brunt of all this additional traffic. And I don't think that that's right either.
We're going to be providing a traffic report that talks about the traffic and those kinds of things, and you can't merge the two because it's not fair to both of them.
Right.
We have somebody else who wants to talk?
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Manuel DuPont. I live at 53 Grand Pine Way.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about neighbors, I agree with everybody here, and I don't want to sound like the Grinch, but if, I spent 32 years in the military, but if I was this body of people with all these issues, I would stop and start all over again. You might be better off. But my question to you, you talk about neighbors, well, first of all, I think this last one that you had up, I'm Manuel DuPont. I live on the left-hand side of Grand Pine Way. Messiah's Emerald, my neighbor, lives on the right side, so this is not, doesn't show the right names on it. Not that it makes any difference, but at this point, I'm going to have a whole lot of neighbors that I'm not asking for. And you folks talk about HOAs and so on and so forth. Now, is this a condo? Or are these condos? Are they homes? What are they? I don't even know.
They're all single-family houses.
What's the HOA, what's it for? Someone has to be in charge of them, right? So once they buy them, the town's going to be responsible for plowing snow and so on and so forth? No.
Roger, does they have a white sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question to you, and the engineer here,
Can you just interrupt?
Yeah.
That white white sheet.
Out
that's
here,
the
it's over
alarm.
here.
Sounds
Whatever's packed over here, I know,
Sorry.
in the very first space.
So my biggest issue would be, as a neighbor, it
Yeah.
seems that there's about 30 feet, Messias, for instance, his well is only about 30, maybe 20, 30 feet away from the property line. And there's going to be a total of 38 wells drilled? Is that what it says?
Yes.
And from the engineer's standpoint, is it possible that a well can collapse? My well, Messiah's well can collapse, with all those wells being drilled? Because whether we like it or not, we're going to be their neighbors. All of them.
It's an artesian well, so anything's possible.
Anything's possible. So who's going to be responsible to fix my well if it collapses?
Mine too.
No, all of yours. I'm talking about everybody on Grand Pine Way. But myself and Mr. Emerald are the two closest neighbors to this issue. And the second thing is, one, leaching field. I mean, this thing has to go into the ground. What if it contaminates my well? Who's going to fix that? Who's responsible for that? Are those questions that can be asked? I don't know. Are they, or aren't they asked?
No, you asked the question. That doesn't mean we have the answer right now.
All right, please, like I said, I spent 32 years in the military, and you guys have a hard job to do, a real hard job. I won't not want to be in your shoes, but there's got to be a better way to communicate. Young lady, let me just say I love you. I love you the way you acted, sir. Those are cool. But man, this is not the way we should be operating, not in this town. And I apologize for those that can't or won't. You guys got to slow down a little bit. This concerns, we talk about these neighbors that have lived there for 17 years with kids, and they're worried about coming out into the street, and then the overgrown retaining fields and so on and so forth. I am going to have a whole lot of neighbors that I'm not asking for. Everybody deserves to live. Everybody deserves to have a house. But just don't throw it on me, all of me, and my neighbors, because some of them, I think for the first time, this is the most we've ever gotten here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. But I can get everybody else down here to justify what I believe is going to be a hell to deal with if my well collapses or if my well gets contaminated. And who's going to buy my house? What's it going to be worth once that happens? Thanks for listening. I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So, sir, as the way I'm understanding this, the road is not adequate, right?
Which road?
The
Westport Lakes Road.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Westport Lakes Road is overgrown. The road itself, we have not gotten any indication, well, that's up to the planning board to determine what needs to finish to be done. They issued the permit for that road. That road never got finished.
Okay.
So that is the responsibility of Coastal Harvest.
But they're MIA.
They're not MIA, they just have, well, indirectly, I guess they are. But, so why doesn't the Board of Health, I'm sorry, why doesn't the Planning Board? And I think they just recently sent a letter to Coastal Harvest, find out what the hell's going on. That just happened within the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
The Planning Board now is starting to push the issue. When you're gonna finish it? When you're gonna do this? When you're gonna do the replication? When you're gonna, they're asking those questions now. In my opinion, they should have been asked a long time ago, but they weren't.
So let's.
So that makes the road, there's things to be finished, but doesn't mean that there isn't safe access. The road is plenty wide enough, and I don't think the fire chief or the police chief, we've gotten letters from both of them, have indicated that it's a safety issue.
So if I'm understanding correctly, what you're telling me is the road as it exists, it's overgrown, it's been neglected, but it will stand the traffic, this added traffic that you're talking about adding.
That would be for the peer review people to determine, but in my opinion, from a traffic point of view, yes, but it's still drainage, there's catch basins that haven't been cleaned, there's catch basins that haven't been done, there's the detention basins that haven't been finished, there's the wetland that hasn't, so they haven't finished it. That doesn't mean that you can't pass cars over the road.
Okay, so I understand all that. So if all that has not been done, what are you gonna do if it doesn't get done? Because you want to go here, and
Yes.
that's a problem here. So you can't
Because-
get from A to B because A is messed up.
I
If I'm
think
understanding you
yeah,
correctly.
I understand what you're saying, and I think we can go from Route 177 to the entrance of our development.
Right.
I think we can. And the issue that was raised previously, are we gonna make that road with all the construction activity and so forth, are we gonna make that road worse?
Yes.
So that's a possibility. So what we had said was that if and when we get all our approvals, okay, we will we will have an inspection done of the condition of that road, and we can't make it any worse. So we would be responsible, if all of a sudden part of that road had to be replaced for whatever reason, that would be our responsibility, because we damaged it.
And you would repair it.
Yes. And I don't have a problem putting that in a decision. I've said that right from the beginning. But we're not gonna go and fix the detention basin, we're not gonna go do the wetlands, we're not gonna do all the other things that they were supposed to do. So, yeah, so we're going over part of that road that the planning board may or may not make a decision on how much of that road presently has to be fixed or replaced. The town is holding $123,000, here's the issue. The town is holding $123,000 in a cash bond. I don't think anybody thinks $123,000 is enough money to fix this bond, right?
Not today.
Right.
I just got my
So
driveway done.
so it's still Coastal Harvest's responsibility. Now, if they abandon that responsibility, it's a legal thing. I don't know what would happen in a case like that. If they all of a sudden said, hey, we're done.
Well, okay, now, retention ponds, we gotta have those, right? They've gotta be functioning, right?
For Westport Lakes Road, yes.
Wait, but he's only responsible for his development.
But to
Right.
get to B, you gotta have,
Yeah, but the fact that there's a drainage issue and so forth does not stop the safety access of the roadway of Westport Lakes Road to our development. And it's been operating that way for 16, 17 years. So obviously, I don't know. I assume some of that is, I don't know. That's for the planning board and whoever in town to figure out.
okay, all right, I'm done.
Okay, it's getting late, so what we need to do is schedule the next meeting.
It's public forum.
Stacy Pereira, 26 Westport Lakes Drive. So I want to do an overview of our meetings so far. So meeting number 1, Mr. Custon had, I think we've agreed that he had asked for the peer reviews on who the consultants, they wanted to know who it was. But pretty adamantly that he mentioned it more than once. Number 2, he was pretty repetitive on the fact about Brad Dean having nothing to do with the road. Number 3, what I wanted to talk about was public safety. Mr. Furland has meeting number 1, meeting number 2, even tonight, has explained about public safety. So my thing with public safety is, and the fact of Mr. Furland, he's talking about public safety in his eyes with this plan. How I look at public safety with this plan is the accessibility. So if you're gonna have families, 38 families, with potential children, how are you gonna tell me that this is publicly safe for these children? Is that?
I'm not,
Yeah, in what capacity?
As far as accessing to go to school, because this road, the roadway that they want to use does not have sidewalks. So the school buses aren't going to pick up these children. That was a concern of yours in the first meeting. Also, as it is right now, we have 2 cars that wait on the top of Westport Lakes Drive for the school bus. So let's say half of these families have children. That's 15 cars that you're gonna have on the top of Westport Lakes. Is that a public safety concern for anybody?
That's, I hate to say it, but that's not terribly unusual.
To have 15 cars on top of a street waiting for a school bus?
I get by it all the time.
Okay. And as far as the mailbox situation, I spoke to the postal office. You're gonna have
They will not
15
deliver
mail,
to those
they will not deliver a note?
They will not.
So we have 5 mailboxes as it is right now on the top of the street. Are we gonna have 30 mail? Okay.
That's not unusual either.
All right, so I also have another question. Mr. Custon keeps referring to Coastal Harvest as "they." Can I have an explanation about, I'm just curious on who, like, he wanted to mention a name before when somebody had asked, but,
It's,
Go ahead.
it's Andrew Giammo, capital Giammo.
so is that a "they"? Like, is that more than one person?
Coastal Harvest and there's also another person.
Because multiple times you referred to Coastal Harvest as "they," so I'm
Yeah,
just
there are
curious.
2 people involved there.
Oh, there is 2 people. Okay, I'm sorry. I have multiple things. I have pictures of what the road is with water. But like you said, it's getting late. I'm sure we'll have more meetings. I'm just very concerned in the fact that this is the third. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention was the planning board, the last meeting you had read off on what they had discussed they wanted in May. It asked for the traffic study, it asked for the stormwater, so in May. The first meeting, they said they were gonna give it to us. We didn't get it. The second meeting, we were asking for it. I think, and even when you talk to the other boards and see if they've applied for anything or whatever, they can't do anything without these plans. So I'm not sure why we're dragging our feet with this time structure. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next meeting.
Could I ask a question, please? I would just like a clarification. It's been said a number of times that Mr. Pereira does not belong to the HOA,
That's my understanding.
okay? And I believe he just indicated it, but I was always given the impression that that was a choice. And in this letter from Coastal Harvest, it says here, Mr. Pereira has chosen not to join the HOA. But it seems to me that I just heard him say that it wasn't he who chose not to, that the person he bought the property from exempted himself from it. So what's the story on that?
If I may, my understanding is that the HOA was put on record on January 5th, 2019. So the HOA, the Declaration of Trust, which is in tab 1 of the book that you have. So that HOA was put on record at that point in time. My understanding is that the sale to Mr. Pereira happened prior to that date. So therefore, in my opinion, it would make, I'm not a lawyer, but in my opinion, he may not be required to be part of that HOA because when he bought his house, the HOA was not on record.
So anyway, subsequent to that buying, automatically is a member of the HOA.
Everybody else is, yes, because it's
So-
on record.
Is that, where's Mr. Pereira?
So I respectfully.
Is that correct?
I would respectfully decline to answer that question, honestly.
Oh.
I spoke of it earlier.
Well, it made a difference to me in my mind,
Okay.
whether you chose
So-
to or you
So-
were required to.
The covenants in the HOA, that stuff was conveyed or not conveyed through the home sale, okay? From which Brad Dean conveniently absolved himself from. It's not my fault that that's the way the property transferred. I'm standing here with more concern about this than anybody. I'll speak for myself, but I feel like I have the most concern about this project than anyone, despite the fact that I may or may not join the HOA when the time comes. When the time comes. I have not been given an opportunity to do that. because it hasn't been transferred to the homeowners. It's that simple.
And I
It's that
also
simple.
heard, I believe you say that he also exempted some of his family members from some of the other lots.
The two lots that
Yeah.
adjoin the roadway.
No, that's where the subdivision's going.
Except for the golf cart way was never constructed as part of the subdivision.
Correct.
Those permits have expired, so you should be going at this project with the proposal that golf cart way also has to be constructed and connected to Westport Lakes Drive because it was never done. And it is now forever lost because all of those permits are expired. And nobody applied for extensions. Thank you.
Attorney Pucci, this is another one of those issues that we're spending a lot of time on, and I'm having a hard time understanding how the HOA for a previous development has any effect on the one that we're talking about now. Is there any relevance to a previous HOA? Not really.
The relevance to me,
As far as who owns it, who
Right.
runs it, whatever,
relevance to me is the fact that, according to Mr. Farland, typically an HOA is formed prior to any development. That didn't happen with the Westport Lakes subdivision.
Right.
Right? And I think what our residents are saying is that Mr. Dean, at some point, had some say in Westport Lakes subdivision. And the fact that he did not act in a customary way in which you would normally set up an HOA prior to any development, and the fact that Mr. Dean just sold his interest in the rest of the development to Coastal Harvest because he was unable to complete the development, is why our residents are having a problem with now allowing Mr. Dean to do another development, and they're worried, and if, I think this, and correct me if this is not your worry, that the same thing will happen, unfortunately, to this development, because he has previously shown that he cannot successfully complete a development. And I think that is the issue. That is, I think, the issue that our residents are all having, and I think that's, to me, is a concern, and I think, I don't, again, not relevant to, unfortunately, not relevant to this subdivision. I think we're all looking for somehow to say, okay, if somebody has a history of not doing something completely or correctly, why are we allowing him a second kick at the can? And again, assuming that it doesn't matter if he did have any responsibility to the Westport Lake subdivision or he didn't. The fact is a matter of our residents feel he did, and that's the problem.
And there-
That's what is causing
Sure,
all this contention here, is because that they feel that he's the one who slighted them, and now they're gonna have another eyesore behind them.
Right, but he-
I would, and again, when you were not here last time,
All right.
Chris Farland did say he's interested in actually acquiring would love to acquire the whole rights to this. And I think if that happened, I think a lot of this would go away.
I said the same
'Cause
thing.
I feel very confident in Chris, Mr. Farland, I feel very confident in you,
Thank you.
but I think the issue is the history of Mr. Dean is where we're losing
But
confidence.
there's no, I understand their concerns, but there's no evidence that Mr. Dean was involved in Coastal Harvest.
No, I'm not talking about coastal
But
Harvest.
they are the ones who are responsible for complying with the planning board rules and regulations regarding that subdivision.
Today, but it was Mr. Dean who.
No, he was never.
Not Coastal Harvest.
He was.
I know.
He was never part of, so
I
he,
know, but the Coastal Harvest didn't develop Westport Lakes.
they most certainly did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
American Lakes did.
They took over the
They took over the responsibility, but they were not the
No,
ones who put the plan into action. It was Mr. Dean's father
Yes.
who put the plan into
And
action.
that's not,
And that's not Coastal Harvest,
and
and
that's
that's
not
not
Brad,
Mr.
and it's
Dean.
not Brad Dean, that's American Links. So American Links when they were proposing the golf course and all the lots around the golf course, they originally put down part of the road. Then,
Again, let's take the road out of it. It really isn't the road issue. It's about
Okay.
what I think
Okay.
of Mr. Dean, and I think of
What-
what our residents think of Mr. Dean. It has nothing to do with the road. We all admit
well,
that
that's
it's
why they
crap.
don't, that's why they don't have any confidence in Mr. Dean, because they think he was responsible for building the road.
Well, he admits in this paperwork that he was responsible for the Westport Lakes subdivision.
Selling of it.
No.
Not the selling of
Development of it.
it, not the selling of it, the Blue Cat,
No.
which was Mr. Dean. Blue Cat is Mr. Dean and his sister. They sold,
He spearheaded it.
Spearhead.
they sold, yes, they sold, they were the seller.
No.
Yes, they were.
Spearheaded.
There's a deed on record that shows clearly.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
it's a late night, and I'm done.
Okay.
We're just going.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree on those issues, and the legal evidence shows that that's the case.
Okay, so let's schedule the next meeting.
Okay. Well, what is it that we're trying to accomplish at the next meeting?
Well, by that time, we will have our consultant.
Yep.
You will have provided us with reports, the water, the retention ponds, and, you know, whatever reports you're gonna have available. You're not gonna have the traffic study probably until sometime in January, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping, but, so, yeah, so Christian will,
And I agree with your concept of let's do one
okay.
major topic at a time. So, and what would you be ready fully to discuss at the next meeting? You can ask your engineer if you want.
well, we would be ready to, Christian.
Stormwater management, what?
We're gonna be submitting the plans.
We're gonna be submitting the plans early next week. The problem's gonna be the consultant's gonna need to review them.
Yes.
So whether or not the board wants to meet to go over the plans before the consultant.
You're gonna send it to Maria, Maria's gonna send it to the
Yes,
consultant.
but so,
It's gonna take 2 or 3 weeks. So do you wanna meet before the peer review
No.
has the comment letter?
No.
You wanna wait?
Then what I would do is I would ask the peer review how long they're gonna need to review.
I was just gonna say that.
And then we could meet, but I would, from my
No,
experience.
we have to actually assign a date today.
My experience
We
would
can't,
be at least, you gotta wait at least 3 or 4 weeks.
I'm gonna suggest we do this the end of January.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it,
I won't
not a
be-
whole lot's
I
getting
won't
done
be-
next,
I won't be
around
here,
the
but
holiday.
This is gonna be mostly engineering issues. So hopefully by that time, so if you're thinking about the end of January, that's fine. So what I'm saying is that that would give, hopefully, the opportunity for the peer review to make comments, and maybe even, Christian, time to comment on the comments, which is unusual.
So, but again, and I go back to what you had recommended, and I agree with, what is the plans that you're going to be submitting soon? Is stormwater management, what
Yeah,
else?
so the purpose of that meeting would be to review in details the plans and the plans that were submitted and the comments made by the peer review. Now, they're gonna be looking at all of the plans, which
Right.
includes primarily stormwater management.
Stormwater management. So why don't we make that as the focus for next?
That's fine. So it's a review of the plans, including, not excluding, but including stormwater management.
Yes, primarily stormwater management, because that's going to be, hopefully, that's going to be the
Well,
first.
they'll have the road details, they'll.
Oh, yes, but it's not going to be a traffic study probably, because you're probably not going to get it in time.
The traffic study should be ready by then, but let's take one thing at a time.
Right, I agree.
So let's
Let's
just
plan
talk
on,
about,
so, last week in July, in January?
22nd?
29.
29. We're going to do this on, oops.
Is there any way this traffic study could be done before that and have
I
two
think
meetings?
so, but that'd be too much maybe to take up in one night.
Right.
No, I'm saying 2 meetings, have one meeting doing before we get the comments back from, just to get this thing moving, because I'm
Okay.
kind of getting all worried that we're running out of time.
If everything is going in the right amount, you know, right course, so to speak,
But
and you need an extension, we're not here to say, okay, you haven't acted by a certain date and it's granted, so we'll work with you in that regard.
You mean
But
sort of
I-
like
I-
Briggs Landing?
Yeah, we did the same thing in Brooks. So I would say, so So if you want to do, set up another meeting for traffic,
No, we'll do that after, that'll be
I
after.
think she's suggesting.
I was just saying if we could get traffic in before we had the consultant's review of the site plan, then we could at least get a preview of the traffic, so then
Okay.
then we could send that off to review as well, but.
Well,
Here's my suggestion in that regard. I'd like to set up a meeting to discuss traffic. For the traffic, see, the problem is, if we get we would like to present our traffic report, have our consultant discuss with you the traffic report, then send it to peer review. If you don't want to do it that way, and you want to send it to the peer review first, then we should hold it, then it would be after the January 29th meeting.
well, I think what we can do is, we'll schedule for the 29th, if that's okay with everybody, primarily for the stormwater management, which would be then a thorough review, because by then our the consultant would have had time to review it, hopefully, and whatever other plans you've had submitted, either we do at least an overview, if not
I think Brian will review everything, including the stormwater management's done, so I think he would have an opportunity to review the entire plans.
Right.
So we'll do that on January 29th, and soon as we get the traffic report, we will submit that to you, and you would be
And then
able
we,
to, I'm sorry?
Potentially, then we could have a meeting a couple of weeks later. to
Yeah,
talk
so,
about
so
traffic.
at that time, you'll also send it out to Brian for his traffic peer review.
Right.
So it'll be a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the January 29th meeting.
Is that, are you available on that day?
I am.
Yeah, good, okay. What about everybody else on the board?
We're talking about the 29th.
We're talking about, Lunar New Year's.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, a little.
It's always a good time to have a,
Yeah, well, the moon is gonna be.
George,
Yeah, that's all right on my calendar.
you're good? I'm good. I think I'm
Is there,
good.
is, like, so,
So-
like, tonight, like, we really didn't need, because we thought we were gonna get our plan tonight. Like, is there a way that if things go awry and our consultant doesn't have his report back by the 29th, that they can request a continuance?
We
instead of
have to
us?
hold the hearing.
Okay,
When we schedule it, we have to be here. Now, we can be here and continue it,
Yeah.
but we have to be here.
Right, as long as three of us are here to vote for a continuance.
Right.
So with respect to the board, respectfully, as far as the process is concerned, it seems imminent that we would need an extension today because of
Can't do that.
we made an extension last week because the applicant didn't have proper information.
No, we did it because of the.
The peer review was an
time
issue.
The time involved in getting a.
So the overall timeframe of this of this 40B process, I think, is clearly sensitive. And if you're already talking about potential longevity of it without an actual extension, like you did last month, I don't see how that's possible.
Because we're not at the point now where we've deemed that we need an extension. When we need it, we will ask for it. Right now, we have until late May, sometime in May,
Okay.
right?
Whatever it is. Was it?
This sort of goes back to
Okay, wait,
what the lady spoke about earlier, that she didn't get a notice of this meeting. You're not going to get a notice of these meetings, because we assume if you're interested, you're here, you're getting it. If not, you can call Maria, give you the information. So you're not going to get a written notice of
It will be
this.
posted,
Yeah.
but we don't send out a letter to everybody every time we have a continuation. So I would like to make a motion to continue this hearing until 6:30 on the 29th of January.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. So we will see everybody. Probably we will see everybody.
First on the agenda, are we?
Excuse me?
Is that the only thing that we have on the agenda right now?
Right now, but we never know.
Yes, we don't have anything else yet.
We don't usually put any significant anything, but if there's a small something
Sure,
to
before.
do, we just slide it in.
So everybody have a happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah.
We gotta do something about his mic, about Jerry's mic.
I know.
Yeah, yours was ringing.
And it has a big echo.
Yeah, it has a big-
Yeah, it's-
What is the problem with that?
It makes it's interference from his,
Exactly, it's
Oh,
yeah.
interfering with it.
No.
It's awful.
That just always happened with somebody else who had
With
a.
what? What are you saying?
I think it's,
My hearing aids.
no, I think it's your hearing aids is interfering with the mic. It's happened before, I have friends who had those
I
little.
can't go without the hearing
know,
aids, because
yeah.
I'm not gonna hear anything.
No, it's okay.
But we can't even hear, it's like when you're talking, it's like
Like, you're, it's
Yeah,
like, well,
but then that's something that they have to handle.
he is like God for zoning.
I know, it's
So,
like-
mean, so it is sort of echoing.
I know, it's like God is talking to us.
Well, what do
Yeah,
you-
well, that's what I said.
I mean, what do you expect?
You're the zoning
like-
board chair emeritus, you
Well,
know.
I mean, I had no idea that was happening, so,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Because he's only hearing it's coming through his, because you have it right.
Yeah, we adjourned.
Yeah.
How about now?
Okay, we
No,
have one
still-
more order of business, actually.
What happened? Is that still happening?
They're fine.
Well,
A little bit better.
I just moved the, I just moved.
They're fine.
Okay, we have meeting minutes for November, can you guys take it outside?
Adios, guys.
Meeting minutes from November 6th, Maria's put together the meeting minutes, they've been reviewed by everybody, and she provided comments, it's like 7 pages long.
They're perfect.
I I make a motion to approve meeting minutes from November 6th, 2024. I made a motion.
Yep.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, no. The other thing I have is, we've been having meetings of the
Oh, yeah, forgot about
short-term rental committee has finished their work, and we sent a draft bylaw change for both zoning and for the general bylaws to go to the select board, who will then turn around and send it back to the planning board for open hearings. The concept is that the zoning bylaws will be very straightforward. You got to comply with mass general laws and whatever, and you have to have, it will then go to the select board for approval. The general bylaw will then also state some requirements, but the major aspect of this is that there will be an application form, similar to what they do for trailers and what they do for alcohol, what they do for a bunch of them. There's an application form that everybody would have to fill out on a yearly basis. And it would be self-administered. They would just say, I have a septic that is approved, I have fire, carbon monoxide detector, all the things that the fire department says they need, that the health department says they need, that the zoning enforcement officer says they need, would go on the application form. And then that would go in front of the select board as a public notice, then they would, on a yearly basis, then either approve or reject the short-term rental. There's also.
Does this have to go to town meeting?
Oh, the changes? Yeah, the zoning board has to be approved by 2/3, and the general one has to be approved by a majority. There's also going to be a change to the zoning bylaw because of the ADA law from Massachusetts. Right now, it's essentially we're taking what the ADA law says and putting, essentially we're deleting a bunch of sections out of the current accessory apartment to comply with the Mass General Law. Like, you don't really have to live there. You don't have to, there's no special permit. It's by right, but there's some things you have to comply with. You have to have the septic, you have to have parking, there are those things, but it's not a special permit. So
Is there anything
we'll be
being
out of the
addressed?
special permit business.
Is there anything being addressed about selling them separately? Like condoizing them? We had that.
We're selling them separately.
Well, by right, they can make these
Yes.
buildings now, okay?
Yes.
So by right, can I sell this one here as a condo
Yeah,
unit?
I don't,
Have you discussed
I
it?
haven't seen that, and I don't know.
Well, I think that should be addressed, because we already have one.
Well, what can you do? There
The
doesn't say
planning
anything about
board's
accessory
doing that
apartments.
amendment, we haven't touched it in this short-term rental. Mike
No.
Burris took,
No.
right? Like, we really haven't
We
done.
haven't, we haven't touched that, but I did see something. that
Nobody
Mike
is
Burris said
reporting, so I
on
thought
board.
maybe they
Yeah.
had discussed it.
No, we haven't, because it was just, it was in passing that we found out that Mike Burris already had made the zoning changes and made the changes for to comply to the new regulations, and had already passed it off to the attorney. Like, it was just sort of in passing that he
Right.
said that.
Yes. And I actually sent a copy of it to
The-
Jeff, just for his review.
The Board of Health last meeting discussed having an attached and a detached, and they were talking about the septic systems for either one. And if you had 3 bedrooms, they brought this up, that if you had 3 bedrooms, you could take away one and make an attached one,
Right.
which you wouldn't have to upgrade your systems and everything else. But if you were building a brand-new one, you had to have a DMAT system.
Oh,
Well,
So,
but
so,
that's-
That's
but
gonna
listen,
be a little-
but then they
Let's go with it.
started, then they
Let's go
started
with it.
discussing the thing, and it kind of like said, you know, I said, wow, this is gonna open up, and then one of the members actually said, well, there's gonna be a lot of these. There's gonna be a lot of
But
this
that's
happening.
not part of anybody's bylaw.
No,
I
no.
don't, well, listen to me, it's gonna be,
It's-
like,
it's part
it's
of the
gonna be
health
part of the thing, it says,
department.
well, you have to have an approved septic system.
That's it, that's all it says. When it goes to the health department, they'll tell you what.
I just happened to watch it, and I go,
ADU,
wow,
or you
there's
talking
something
about short-term?
interesting.
Excuse me?
You talking right now about ADU or short-term?
ADU.
No, sure, ADUs.
Okay,
Accessory
so to
apartments.
me, it's wide open
Yep.
for a developer to just come in, buy a lot,
Yep.
make 2 buildings, sell one, sell another one, and.
I think that violates a different part of the bylaw.
It does.
It does, it says you
It
cannot
does.
have multiple,
But the state says you can.
no, well,
No,
In fact, the
no, it
state,
doesn't, it just says you can have another ADU, that doesn't mean it has to be a separate property.
no,
Yeah, you can have,
no, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a separate property.
well, anyway, that's,
That's what I'm saying. As a matter of fact, the one I can't figure out is the state says you can have 1 or more ADUs on a property.
yes,
Turn his mic off.
yep, so, okay.
I thought you said it worked.
You're up.
okay.
Oh,
No, wait a minute, what about the planning board thing? You don't want to?
Oh, yeah, we need to do that. We need to do that.
Oh, yeah, the 48-hour notice.
We gotta-
I thought we were gonna discuss that at the next one.
We can't because they need it by,
They wanted it by January 3rd, and it's not a big deal. We're not gonna have anything to say about that.
okay, here it is. Okay, I'll read this off. Planning board. Janice, since we got one, we do have one more thing from the planning board.
not. Okay, I was just wondering, because I couldn't, no. Yeah, he did, thank you.
Okay, definitive residential subdivision, Francis Estates located, map 68 lot 7, 0 Charlotte White Road with 40,000 square foot of ground disturbance. A 9 lot subdivision with individual septic systems on each lot and existing on-site cemetery is shown on the plans. The applicant is requesting a waiver to eliminate sidewalks. I mean, generally, we don't get involved in subdivisions, so, but they asking for comments, and I suggested we have
Make
no
no
comment.
Okay.
Unless we had something that we felt potentially could involve us,
Right,
I think we don't. That's already a subdivision, and I guess they're just
yeah,
extending it.
yeah. Does anybody have any problem with,
It's on the corner of Main Road
yeah,
and Charlotte White.
yeah, the ones that have been building quite a few in the last.
So anyway, I would make a motion that we notify them that we have no
no
comment.
comment? Oh, and I gotta sign this.
All those sidewalks would really be nice.
What's that?
But then you gotta shovel them.
No, but, you know, we would like sidewalks on River Road, thank you. So we don't get hit.
But I mean, from a zoning board point of view, we don't have any issues, right?
Oh, you made a motion.
Yeah, I made a motion
I
to that
second it.
effect, but I haven't heard anybody say we do or
did.
don't. Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We don't usually
So
vote
that
on
takes
that.
care of it, yeah.
No comment.
you.
From
Oh, by the way, you have have to announce that that's under the 48-hour notice. We just got notified of the thing we just voted on. We just got notified
We just
of
got
that.
notified of it.
So, and we don't have another meeting coming up before
It's under the
that. so
48-hour rule.
That's the reason.
So,
Right. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
finally.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.